Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome live on this Saturday morning, January 25th, 2020, for a brand new, thrilling, entirely normal edition of the Dave's Gone By Facebook Yo Podcast Yo Program Yo of the Stream, starring me, Dave Lefkowitz, and my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, is here to help out with the festivities and the proceedings. Got a lot of fun stuff for you today. We're just getting the our opening music ready and just making sure our stream is working because we had some issues last week with our Facebook stream. But we're here from 9 until noon every Saturday, including this one for, this is our 730th edition of the program. And we've started virtually every single one just like this.
Good morning, good morning. There goes the neighborhood. And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Well, is a shark a tropical fish? I think it's more freshwater. It actually would not be a tropical hot dog morning here in the Daverhood. Let me explain this. This is, I mentioned last week that for my birthday, my 56th birthday that just happened this past Thursday, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, say hello, Joyce.
Hello, Joyce.
She got me some fabulous gifts. You know, other people, when they reach this kind of middle-aged milestone, it's not really, 50 is not really a milestone, but this kind of landmark, postmark in their lives. They might get a Maserati. Right?
It's like Dante when he said, as I reach midlife's journey.
And every inch is midlife's journey. What do you say?
No, Dante Alighieri. He wrote Heaven, Hell, and Purgatory, his books in Italian.
Yeah.
He said, as I reach midlife's journey.
Well, I reached midlife's journey when I hit like 37. But so I'm well on the way to senescence journey.
I don't
and you know, kaopectate and prune juice journey.
Octopus fell on me.
But here's the deal. Other men, they'll get like fancy sports cars, maybe turquoise jewelry at a certain age.
Turquoise jewelry?
Yeah, look like a mistress or something. But no, old Dave, what he gets is a couple of fabulous costumes.
You need one more letter.
You saw me last week. I was wearing the panda outfit that my wife got me so kindly for him on sale. Let's understand this, that even for my birthday, things have to be on sale because that's the kind of guy I am. And this adorable shark costume, and the shark costume is really appropriate for this particular weekend. Thank you for this week in the neighborhood, because one of the things we'll be doing on the show is story time. And our story this week concerns, oh yes, the fancy octopus. Yeah, I know you've been waiting for this, folks. So I will be reading from this book, The Fancy Octopus, and of course commenting upon it as we do every week in Storytime on Dave's Gone By. We do other stuff. And by the way, welcome to Fred from Friendy. I know we have a bunch of other people watching. I have a number count, but not the people showing up.
I'll tell you.
Yes.
Lee.
Say it loud. Lee,
Wendy, Randy, Bob, Bill, Chris, Ron, Jennifer.
Well, hello, all you guys and girls. Welcome to the Daverhood on this Saturday, January 25th. We'll be reading
I
the
think I need
fancy
one more letter below you.
That's all right. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's very festive. It's
it
nice
bothers
looking.
me, though.
Okay, Joyce is going to put up another letter behind me, probably right here, because it's a little bit of an open.
Exactly.
It's like a gaping wound
Say that.
on the design of the wall. So she's going to fix it up and make it nice. In this particular episode, which we are calling Route 56, not Route 66. That'll be in another 10 years. But Route 56, because I just turned 56 years old on Thursday. Do I feel, as people ask, do I feel any different? Thank goodness I don't. I have a knee pain today, which is a reminder of aging. I have, I'm feeling, thank God, I'm feeling fine, which is good. I've got this shark costume, which I didn't wake up in. So this is kind of a different thing. It's not like I was born in the shark costume or have been wearing it since my 30s. So I do feel a little bit different today because I'm in this very plush little costume here. But no, man, I've never, even on my birthdays, what?
Maybe we'll increase your story audience.
No, but it's weird. On my birthdays over the years, I have never had that day where I suddenly felt different from the day before or had this sweeping emotional moment of like, oh,
better?
my life, oh, looks much better. My life is somehow different now, or going in a different place, or I'm such a different person than the person I was 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, the closest was sort of manufactured. When I was 30, a week after I turned 30, I went down and took a trip to the Grand Canyon because I thought that would be a place to really, if you're going to hit that big supposed marker in your life, why not do something big and spectacular looking and very thought-provoking, etc. So I go from New York to Arizona on my own. I take a flight down there. I stay with a friend in Tucson for a couple of days, and then I take a bus where the canyon is in Arizona. And I went, and it was amazing to see. And I just remember standing there trying to feel different, trying to impress upon myself of like, oh, you're 30 now. 30 years gone. Who knows how many left? What'll change? How are you different? How is this going to be an important moment in your life?
Look,
I'm afraid I can't help that.
Wendy joined.
Yeah, well, welcome, Wendy. Is my life going to be somehow kind of new or changed or worse or better? Or what am I going to do over the next 10 years that'll make such a big shift in my life that I won't feel as kind of down and just stumbling around as I did when I hit that age marker? But I remember not actually feeling it, but more like, oh, I'm standing at the Grand Canyon, I should feel it, which is a very different thing. When you're trying to make yourself feel something, and there's a difference between watching a movie and being swept up in it and then laughing when something's really funny, not just internal laughing, but a real laugh out loud moment, or they get to a certain part and you cry a little because you can't help it, you're taken in with it, and it's a real cry, as opposed to sort of, you're sitting in a play and there's a moment that's funny, but it's not that funny, but you're laughing because you want to encourage the actors and people are kind of laughing around you, and you feel yourself encouraging everybody else rather than feeling it deeply for yourself, right? We all feel that feeling. So my life is like that a lot. That laugh that I just gave, that's a total Gene Shepard fake laugh right there. I didn't say anything particularly hilarious or amusing, but I want you guys to laugh. So I just laughed a little bit, So that was my life. That was my life when I was 30, standing at the Grand Canyon. This feeling of like I should be feeling more.
Oh, James joined.
Oh, welcome, James. Not James from back. No. Okay. Welcome, James, and welcome to all the folks who are watching and listening. So that's where I am, and that's where I was 2 days ago when I was at just basically having a typical normal day on my 56th birthday. I got to sleep a little bit late, or I got to go back to sleep a little bit because I get up early, but then went back to sleep, and then worked a bit at home, and then went into work because I couldn't take the day off. And while I was pushing carts around and dealing with books and things like that. I'm sitting there and going, well, this is my life right now. I'm not particularly happy with it, but at the same time, it's not a bad day. I'm like, it's like old Tom Waits line. I don't mind working because I used to be jerking off my time in bars. I was never jerked off my time in bars. Jerked off in another place. But, so, but I was thinking, okay, my birthday, certainly not what I envisioned my 56th birthday to be when I was 20 years old. But at the same time, I'm having a decent day at work. I'm getting a lot done. Nobody's bothering me. I feel fairly productive today. Then I'll go home. And when I got home, my wife met me with
What did we do the night we had International Delight?
That was the week. That was on Sunday or Monday. That was on Martin Luther King Day. We went for a very nice lunch.
That was your pre-birthday.
As Joyce says, my birthday lasts like 5 weeks because we're always doing stuff to celebrate my birthday for days and weeks at a time. So yeah, a few days before, we had a nice birthday lunch at a place in Rockville Center that was just yummy. I mean, they're known for their incredible array of gelatos and sorbets.
Yes.
But they also do really good food.
Yes.
So I'll give them a plug. It's called the International. Is it International Cafe or International Delight?
International Cafe. We call it Delight. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's an International Delight Cafe or something like that. But they're quite marvelous in Rockville Center. I haven't been there in about a decade.
Isn't it Sunrise Highway?
Are they straight up Sunrise or are they in North? They're not in North Village.
No, I don't think.
Or North Park. There's you can find them. Go find. If you're in Brooklyn, get on the train. Go find this International. They're open today, and they're yums.
They're delicious.
Absolutely yum. So that started kind of my birthday.
You ate your skirt steak.
Yeah, it was delish. But on Thursday, my birthday itself, nothing particularly special except I got home and my wonderful wife had brought from me for Whole Foods because. There are times when I'm really into tradition, and there are times when it's like, oh, if you do something more than twice, it suddenly becomes a tradition, and it's almost superstitious not to do it again. So it's been the pattern of my life that on my birthday, we get a Carvel cake. Because I grew up near Carvel's, and Carvel is, of course, delicious, and nobody makes a Carvel cake like Carvel because it's the mix of the chocolate ice cream, the vanilla ice cream, the brown crunchy in the middle. God knows it's like asphalt in there. I don't know what they make it out of. And then they've got the gooey writing on it and the icing stuff.
Oh, that's funny. One James joined after another.
Oh, the Jamai. Welcome to the Jamai for joining the Daverhood.
That's hysterical.
But this year, I'm like, so much of my life has actually gone backwards over the past few years. So much of my life has been so disappointing and so stonewalled.
Thank you, honey.
Well, I'm just saying. That
you don't have my police noisemaker either.
For what? Well, I got one noisemaker there.
Go get it.
That why not do something? Why not break the Carvel mafia?
Ooh.
Break this cycle of Carveling that I have been doing for I guess decades now. Even in Colorado, it was more important in Colorado because there it was a thing. See, when you're in Long Island or in New York and you want Carvel, you get Carvel. Right, you can get a cake, go to the supermarket, buy a Carvel cake, go to the actual Carvel place, which we have about half a mile from where we live, not even like quarter mile. Grab a Carvel cake, cut it up. The bitch about Carvel is that you have to wait a half hour before you can touch it. It's like carving into a stalactite until it melts just a little, and then it starts melting too much, and you have to eat it immediately, or else I get it in the freezer, which is always a pain because there's never freezer space. So. But in Colorado, it was a big deal because Carvel is not native to Colorado. The Carvel Indians were not dancing around Pueblo for many, many decades and hundreds of years before the white settlers threw them out. So in New York, Carvel's like, oh, Carvel, yeah, it's like better than Dairy Queen a little bit, so forth. In Colorado, it's like, oh, where can we get Carvel? It becomes a quest. It becomes important to find and have Carvel. Here, we're back here in New York again. There's Carvel's next door. Everything's like that. I'm working in the same place I was working 30 years ago, right? Let me break the spell. So I told my wife, please, this year, not a Carvel cake. It's a pain. It takes forever to melt. We got no place to put it. It'll be delicious.
Oh, Jennifer joined.
Welcome, Jennifer.
All the J's are joining. James, Jennifer.
Wow, Jesus.
Jay. Go, Jay.
No, Jay.
It's your birthday. It's your birthday.
So I told her, get me a cake. Get me, and not like a supermarket or a Kmart or who makes the Walmart cake, which are delicious, is fine. But every time in New York now, all these bakeries have opened. All these places, and you walk by them, and it's like walking by the pet stores, where in the window they have the cutest dogs, the little Lhasa Apso with them, big eyes, and the dachshunds, and they're all poking and flumping around on each other, and they're sleeping, and it looks like, and you're not going to go in and buy a dog, but you can't help yourself. Oh, I want them all. I want the dog.
I just put pieces of cake in your cupcakes and.
Right, but so I pass these bakeries, man, in Manhattan. And in the windows, they've got these perfectly, like you see them on Cake Boss.
But they're plastic. Some of them probably.
No. Really?
I believe.
Oh, they look so beautiful and real, like these opera cakes and these just. And I'm like, I'm.
And guess what you
at
got?
the window.
Guess what you got? Yeah.
So Joyce, on my birthday, goes to Whole Foods and schleps home not one, not two, but three.
I was gonna get 4, but the key lime pie was like a cheesecake.
Oh. 3 little cakes from Whole Foods. So instead of getting like one big old cake, she's like, why not have different taste sensations?
Well, this way, because 2 reasons. 1,
Yeah.
big cake is hard to carry and I could drop it.
Oh.
And 2, I didn't know which one you would like, so then you get variety.
Oh.
I know you like variety. You're an Aquarius.
I love variety. Now, me being me.
You're an Aquarian. Aquarians love variety, novelty.
Exactly. And I liked all 3, of course. I think the key lime was probably the most interesting and the
biggest
best.
surprise.
Yeah.
It was like key lime cheesecake.
Yeah.
But then I thought the best one, just taste-wise, beside novelty, was the mousse.
Oh, they had a mousse. Let me tell them about the
yeah.
mousse, because it was like this interestingly layered.
White.
3. I was white chocolate mousse, regular mousse, and then dark chocolate mousse. And it was layered so that you got the heavy, dark mousse on the bottom.
It was cake. I think the bottom was cake.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's right. It was a dense chocolatey thing on the bottom, and it just lightened to the top. So you get the heavy flavor first, and then by the time you got to the top part of the cake, you almost got a meringue light flavor. Oh.
And they also make little cupcake versions of them. So if you like,
do they?
Yes, I can bring you a cupcake.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, every Friday you can get cupcakes.
So that was my birthday. That was the topper, the capper on a very normal, kind of boring old birthday. I'm just working and doing my thing and get my stuff done. Schlep home, and then cake awaits. Real, and I have nothing. I will eat Carvel again. I am sure. Maybe I'll get a Carvel cake in the middle of the year for no reason whatsoever. Because in the supermarket they're only about $15, instead of like 25 at the store. So we get for absolutely no reason. At a point when maybe we've eaten all the things in the freezer and there's room, we can get a small Carvel cake, and it won't be. But we can do it for Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Yeah.
Or some crazy holiday. And by the way, today is Chinese New Year, so.
Welcome, Thomas.
Happy New Year to you.
Welcome, Tom.
Welcome, Thomas. Excuse me. Welcome, Thomas, to the Daverhood on this Saturday.
You want an egg cream?
No, that'll be milky and okay. No, I got my tea right here. Thank you. So
Coffee? Don't you have coffee?
Nah, I'm good. I had coffee earlier this morning.
You want lemon?
Next time you go down. But thank you. So there. So that was the birthday. That was.
Are very slow, baby. Tell your guests.
The internet's slow. Are they really?
Oh, Nancy joined.
I know a couple of different Nancys. Well, welcome to everyone. And by the way, Matthew and Jolinda as well. I'm seeing their names.
Jolinda, why can't you be true?
What else did I want to talk? Oh, so we have stuff to talk about on the Dave's
What about your new friend?
Oh, I found, and the other special part of my birthday this week. So I told you I got 2 costumes, a nice lunch out. We also had a nice dinner out yesterday, but I paid for it. But it was real good. We went to a local Italian restaurant.
Yeah, but how can you say you paid for it when we're married?
Well, it was on my credit
card.
In
New York, it's a
it's common law, but then nothing special. Then no matter who gets who a present,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It's like
but it's a selection.
Yeah. Well, I selected last night's restaurant. What did you think of it?
I enjoy it.
It was real good. There's an Italian place that opened a few months ago.
Like the Seinfeld episode where the waiters come on too much. I don't like to be overseen. I like people to quickly attend to my needs and go.
You thought the waiters were overly attentive? I couldn't get to them.
No, initially they were gonna be like they were very whatever.
Yeah, they were
But
until the moment we didn't order drinks.
Oh, really?
That's it. Because if you order drinks, they know your check is going to balloon.
No,
it's going to be double what you normally
I think
pay.
we both gave off the vibe like, don't, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
No, because I would like them a little bit more friendly. And because one of the reviews I read about this place is that the waiters are really nice and really friendly.
Welcome, David.
Thank you. Well, huh?
No, welcome another David.
Oh, welcome, David. Yeah, huh?
Not you.
So I thought that would be part of it.
Could we call David up to the Torah?
Come up to the Bema, David.
Call David up to the Bema.
But they weren't. At first, this guys seemed really nice, and they were almost empty. This is a Friday night here. They were almost empty when we walked in. Within 20 minutes, the place was packed.
I think they had reservations and they squeezed us in. Right. And you couldn't see behind us was a table of firemen.
Oh, I saw them.
There were no fire ladies, just firemen.
No.
And they were, I think they'd come from a training or something. So it was like a massive amount of people.
They were not, by the way, for those of you who are fantasizing, hot calendar firemen. They were real Long Island Italian kind of bring the pasta firemen.
They were dark Irish.
Yeah, meaning what?
They're black-haired, dark.
Dark not that can't be attractive, but we're not talking about the kinds of firemen who pose for 9/11 calendars.
Some could have been maybe
like really?
November.
Were you noticing this?
Yeah,
you were you? Yeah. Oh, indeed.
You know.
Well, you know what I noticed?
What
I saw in the restaurant.
Duck?
The old Jewish man behind us.
First tell him he had a delicious duck sauce.
Yeah. Well, no, let me tell you. I'll get to the food in a minute. But nothing is more appetizing than this. He was there. Now, it was a cold night last night. It wasn't freezing cold. It was cold and unpleasant. But we had been in the restaurant a while, and this couple was there, or this group. There was a table of 4.
I think when he entered there, he was about 60.
This old Jewish man and this old Jewish group. What?
We had James.
Yeah.
Now we have David.
Wow. And plus, by the way, Lorraine, I think that's probably 2 different people because it's a whole long name with male and female names in it. But welcome. So this table of Jewish people, elderly Jewish people, and they're having their meal, they're fine, nothing. And then at the end of it, so it isn't cold, they're not cold anymore. They've been there an hour and a half. But as this old man rises on his cane and he comes out, I see, and nothing, as I said, is more appetizing or delicious in an Italian restaurant than seeing this perfect snot bubble under his nose. It was literally like a glitter ball in the disco era of Studio 54. He did nothing. I don't think he had a hand free to remove it, but it was just sort of just hanging there. And I was entranced by it. I'm like, wow, did you not notice, sir? Or did this happen as you were rising? Because everybody gets the nose runs when you're in the cold or first coming out of the cold. You can't help it. You're just drippy. But this guy, he'd been eating. He had been having, zuppa inglese and pasta, not primavera, all different pastas they had in this place. And I wanted to applaud. I wanted to say, that is the most perfect. Because when I have that, it's just drip. It's just runny. Maybe sometimes a little green. But this was the most perfect snot goblin I've ever seen on another human being. So my applause to you, sir. And my applause also to the restaurant yesterday where I had orecchiette with duck sausage pasta. And my wife said she'd never heard of duck sausage before. I think I've heard of it. I've never had it. And it does taste different. It's a little sweeter. It's a little softer and more like pate, but it was yummy. It was duck pasta, broccoli rabe, and little ear-shaped pastas, orecchietta, which I guess means ears in Italian. I wonder if they make orecchietta, but they use too much dough, if they're like deaf ears or something like that.
No, they make it. I always think it's weird because Italians are stereotypically associated with mafia, and they cut off body parts. So when you say, that's why I think it's like a little. Yeah, that like artichoke heads floating around in the thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's like if I'm eating someone's ears. Tony the Bull Gravano or something like everybody's name like Big Jojo, Little Jojo, Medium like. So it's like I'm eating someone's. I feel like that's. Or if they make a cheesecake, we didn't stay for dessert there, but if they do, they make the graham cracker crust look like cement. Welcome, Melanie.
Welcome, Melanie. Welcome, Melanie. Well, you liked your food too at the place.
To me, it was very Tyrolean. Like they made a sauce, and it was a red sauce with cheese.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it was because it was more like gravy than pasta sauce.
Very Tyrolean.
Tyrolean is like very, very northern Italy, lower
it's more
Austria.
Mountainous, so it's mixed. So it's more like it's a mixture of German and Italian rather than like a pure Italian cuisine.
Yeah. So she liked it. Joyce liked it very, very much, and it was. Should I mention the place? I can give it a plug.
No. I don't. Not yet.
Okay. Well, we ate there once, and we were
Lisa
quite
joined.
pleased.
Not the Lisa you think, but another Lisa.
Oh, well, welcome, Lisa. So anyway, another really nice meal. It was just the thing about the waiters that struck me. First of all, they got incredibly busy. So So what happened? It's that kind of thing where when we first got there, we had 3 sips of water, and then they refilled the water glass, and then it took them like 45 minutes to refill when our glass were empty.
So we were sitting against a wall, and they couldn't get. There was no passage going through us. So I think we were at a table.
That made it a little difficult. Like when Joyce wanted more grated Parmesan cheese. Yeah. We asked the waiter, it took forever.
Sometimes don't like it because they feel you're changing the dish because it has cheese, but I'm like, Baza make cool. I like.
I pour ketchup all over mine.
Now we have a Lisa and a Linda, which is not
a Lisa.
A Lisa
yes.
And a Linda, but we had like James, and we had all the same names before.
Yeah.
David.
This is wonderful. Welcome, Linda. By the way, everybody. So as I'm saying, was it a special birthday week? No. Was it a good birthday week? Heck yeah. And what a great way to top it than with a new version of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the stream. And also what made it really, really special, and I talked about this last year, is thank you all for the hundreds of messages and birthday wishes and greetings that I received here on Facebook. Because I tried to read every one and to give at least a little thumbs up. I try to respond with the amount of work that you guys put in. So I'm appreciative of even the people who just took 2 seconds to go, happy birthday. Because that's taking 2 seconds out of your day to think of me and to wish me well. Whether you like this program or whether I just came up on your Facebook feed, so-and-so's having a birthday today. Happy birthday, send. And so I would give a thumbs up for that. Thank you. And you do that a couple of hundred times. It's like, thank you very much. Thank you. Happy birthday. Yeah. And then when people would go, happy birthday, I'd say, thank you. I tried to be as assiduous and clever as you guys were in doing these greetings. And sometimes they were more heartfelt and more personal, and I tried to respond to those or make little funny comments back. Someone sent you a potato,
right?
Yeah. My friend back from Colorado, Claudia, sent
where did she find
a birthday potato. On the internet, a picture of a potato with a candle in it, which is so much better than a cake, isn't it? Isn't it, potato? Oh my God, yeah. I'd rather you eat the cake rather than the you-know-what, but oh my gosh, what a beautiful thing. So yeah, the birthday potato. And by the way, another thing that made yesterday special, not my birthday, but yesterday special, we were walking home, and I found this rock, which looks amazingly, doesn't it? Doesn't this look kinda? If we had a few more divots in it, or maybe little green things growing off it, wouldn't this look like a potato? Look, I can do. Oh, yes, Mr. Bond. Don't even know what that means. But so it was a potatoized birthday as well, which is a good thing. Thank you all for the messages. What else do I want to say about the Facebook messages? But I really did appreciate hearing from so many folks, because I take the time most days, and I feel bad when I can't get to it, of getting to everybody on Facebook. And it's tough for me. Okay, I'm gonna say this. I've got about 5,000 people who are, I'm not going to say all close friends, but friends on Facebook. And I would have more, actually, if Facebook allowed you to have more friends. They cap you at 5,000 if you're not a business, so to speak. A personal account can have 5,000 friends on here. And I've kept it at about 4,950, so I can always add or take away as need be. But that means every single day there's between 10 and 20 birthdays then I have to say, happy birthday to you. And I've turned it, I've gotten smart. I've made it a marketing device.
Oh my goodness, another James.
Wow, welcome James. Are you sure it's not one of the same Jameses who logged off and back on?
Everyone has a last name. There are 3 different last names.
Wow, Gentleman Jims. So, but, I'm trying there.
Peter, Rick joined.
Welcome, Rick. And I'm trying to say.
Maybe Rick James.
Funky but chic. Happy birthday. Celebrate by watching Dave's Gone By. So it's like free advertising at the same time of acknowledging, hey, this is a special day for you. So, that's kind of, I got a couple of promo birthday wishes.
Like what?
Yesterday. Well, some guy was, I forget what it was. He had a whole image thing of all the stuff that he does. I'm like, okay, thank you. It does take a little bit of the specialness.
What?
I don't remember. I honestly am.
Like dancing or like singing or what kind of like a...
No, it was whatever his business was.
Oh.
And it was a whole big message about it. And I get it. I get you want to, hey, I'm wishing you happy birthday. And while I'm doing that, kind of take a look at this. Maybe I can make some money off you. I understand that. It does make it a little less special on my end, which I'm sure people feel when I wish them, hey, happy birthday to you. Celebrate by watching this show every Saturday morning. But, it's Facebook. You do what you got to do. But understand that I have to do it 20-something times a day. Copy, paste, copy, paste. And if I know the person more personally, then it's like copy, insert personal name, and little greeting, paste. So I appreciate it when you guys do it, and I hope you appreciate it when I do it. What else? Is there anything else to say about? No. Thank you. Thank you so much for the kind wishes, and even the people who are doing like a day later. And you guys are pretty neat because a lot of people are saying happy belated birthday a day or two later. Sorry, I forgot. I didn't get to it. I'm not good that way. I sort of do the white lie thing. If I miss a day, Facebook still lists all the people from the day before. So I'm just like, oh, happy birthday. And I'm hoping that maybe they're all the way over in like Asia or Hawaii. So maybe when I'm posting happy birthday, it's still the previous day, even though it's like 7 a.m. here. It's in my head, maybe it's 11:58 p.m. the night before. And I got them on their day. So I don't have to go belated, oops, just regular happy birthday. Well, happy day to all of you folks. It's about 25 to 10 Eastern time here in the Daverhood. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. The program is Dave's Gone By. It's our 730th episode of the show. We're calling it Route 56 because I'm now 56 years old and 3 days. I'm feeling fine. Thank God. What else? I was going to tell you what's on the program today. Well, we have Greeley Crimes and Old Times, of course, where we go into the newspaper from the town Joyce and I were living in for about 10 years. And we talk about stories that are in the Greeley Tribune newspaper. We'll explain more in a little bit. I'll go inside Broadway for news of the Rialto and a couple, or at least one review. I saw the latest iteration of Forbidden Broadway, off-Broadway. Forbidden Broadway is the name of the show. It's playing off-Broadway at the York Theater. And I was actually there on opening night. I really thank the press agents for letting me in that night because I saw so many friends of the Daverhood there. So many people who have been on this program in years past. I know later on in the show, we also do a segment called Friends of the Daverhood where we catch up with people who've been on the show and what they're doing now. But check this out. Aside from my critic friends like Eva Heineman, who has been on so many of our Tony shows, she was there. A couple of other critic friends that I know. In this audience for Forbidden Broadway on, I guess it was about, I forget when, I think I went on Tuesday night or maybe it was last weekend that I saw the show, or it was last Sunday. We had in this audience for Gerard Alessandrini's show. Well, Gerard is a friend of the Daverhood, so he was there for the opening of his latest Forbidden Broadway.
Another David, Jeanette, and Kevin.
Welcome to all of you. Also, the artistic director of the York Theater, who gives the long speech before the show starts, Jim Morgan, he, of course, was there and did his speech. Sheldon Harnick, I think he's 92 now, guy who co-wrote a little show called Fiddler on the Roof. He's our friend of the Daverhood. He was in the audience. I saw our recent guest, Leroy Reams. He was there. Jamie DeRoy. I'm just mentioning names out of school, but they were all there for the opening of Gerard's Forbidden Broadway, The Next Generation. So I went to see it, and I will tell you what I thought of this latest Forbidden Broadway on Inside Broadway. We will also have our Yesterday quiz. That's kind of fun. It's a trivia quiz, and I haven't seen my cousins Cynthia and Jeff log on yet. Maybe they're sleeping in a little bit. So we'll hold that for a while. Maybe they're sleeping in.
I hope they're. Wasn't one? Didn't somebody?
What?
I thought one of them had an injury.
Oh, well, they've been dealing with it. But I hope Cynthia and Jeff log on, because it's fun for you guys to play against them, where you're answering trivia questions and beating them to the punch of who gets the answer first. It's our Yesterday quiz dedicated to January 25th in history. So all these things that happened on January 25th. And of course, we will have story time with the fancy Octopus. All that and more. And rather sadly, we are going to be paying tribute. Well, I mean, in fact, I'll even do it a bit now, to 2 deaths this past week. And happily, I mean, it's nobody in the Daverhood. It's not somebody who's been on the show. But 2 deaths that affected me a bit this week in the entertainment world. And one is honestly a person that I was trying to get a few years ago. And they said no.
Welcome, Alex.
Welcome to Alex. I had been in touch because this guy's son was making a movie. And his dad had a small role in the movie. I was trying to get the dad, the famous dad, on the show. And it was just like, no, we'd really rather have you have the son, the director, and the dad is not perhaps in the best mode to do an interview these days. And I said, okay, whatever, he's too busy, and so forth. What I didn't realize then was that the disease that he was getting was already starting to take hold, and this is a couple of years ago. Well, the person I'm talking about is Terry Jones of Monty Python. So they've lost the second and a half of the Pythons now, because Neil Innes, our friend of the Daverhood, he died about 2 weeks ago. We paid tribute to him. He wasn't an official member of Python, but of course he was in Holy Grail, and he was on several of their shows and did some of their music, aside from having his career in the Bonzo Dog Band and all the other music stuff that he did. So we lost him, and of course Graham was the big shock decades ago. Graham Chapman died, I think, in the 90s of some weird pneumonia-like thing. I don't think it was AIDS, even though he had obviously a very dissipated life.
A pneumonia can kill you. So if you don't have the flu shot or the pneumonia vaccine and you're susceptible, people still die from pneumonia and the flu. Yeah.
Well, he shot out his liver, essentially, from years of extraordinary drinking. Yeah, plus, and he was there doing stuff in the AIDS era. So, but I don't think it was actual.
Well, if you get pneumonia with AIDS, it's usually like sarcoma.
Yeah, he didn't have that. He didn't.
And then like a bunch of like AIDS-related pneumonia.
I think he had more of a rare pneumonia-ish thing. I can't Google and wiki right now.
Anything could kill you if you're in the right,
But that was the weird thing, because it was sort of like the death of John Lennon. It was early. It was the first death of the Pythons, and it was so many years ago. So that was like, whoa, we're all mortal, because this guy died. He was 40-something, right? He didn't live to 60, 70, 80 years old. He was just like, gone.
You know what I believe, David?
What?
I believe that everybody dies when they're supposed to die. Everybody, I mean, some people have lives that are bad and they medicate or they do,
Yeah. Oh, he never did anything. He wasn't bad. He lived. He lived over the top for several years, and then cleaned. He dried up for a while, and then for a while when he was sick, he went, back to drinking heavily again. But he was not reliable in any way, shape, or form. He was soused all throughout, like Life of Brian, like soused through Holy Grail, and yet you could count on him if you got him to the camera. You could count on him, and moments later he was gone.
Medicine,
well,
what do you call the camera? The stage.
Well, Dr. Theater, and just like for the moment he was in front of the camera, fantastic. Yeah. But then go find him. Then he was partying off with men and drinking like crazy. Yeah. But we're not talking about Graham. We're going to talk about Terry Jones, who left us this past week. And that less of a shock because of Terry, we've known for, I'm calling him Terry like I knew him. We've known for a couple of years that he had a very particular and rare form of dementia, that he lost the use of language. And I know I'm not being funny about that, because it's funny. I can be funny about non-funny people
David,
dying.
Another David joined.
Welcome to David.
This is the 17th David.
But I tend to be serious when funny people die. That's the strangest thing.
Because you value comedy as the highest
plane
of, your planes of existence or your levels of existence. Comedy's the god, right? You pray to the god of comedy.
Like if John F. Kennedy dies, I'm going to think of a zillion jokes. But if Bill Cosby dies.
No, but like Godfrey.
But God, I really respect. But Gilbert Gottfried dies, it's going to hit me hard in a way that when Jimmy Carter finally goes, is not in a strange way. When Stephen Sondheim goes, I'm going to be a basket case. But when I don't know, I think you know what I'm saying. But I'll still make jokes no matter who goes. But Jones, it was the most terrible irony because Jones was in many ways the most verbal of the Pythons, not so much in performance, but this is a man who lost the use of spoken language. And when he had finished with Python, first of all, as part of Python, he was one of the directors. He and Terry Gilliam would share the directing chores on Grail and on Life of Brian.
Ray.
Welcome to Ray. And on Monty Python's Meaning of Life, right? So they would split directing duties. And,
oh my God!
What?
Ray, Barry, and Tim all joined at once.
Well, welcome. Maybe they're friends of Graham Chapman, if you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying that.
Are they not?
So here's the deal: with if you're a director, you need to make yourself clear and understood. And I'm not saying there aren't deaf directors or blind directors who communicate in other ways. I'm sure there are, but for the most part, you've got to be communicative to the actors, to the lighting designer, to the sound person, to the camera person, the cinematographer. So that is all about communication if you're a director. And to imagine somebody who has that skill and then loses it, and even worse, and you would appreciate this, Terry Jones, in his later life, became an extraordinary Chaucerian scholar.
Oh, the poor thing.
Well, absolutely versed in the Canterbury Tales and Troilus and Cressida and all of those things.
Some people say Cressida.
Cressida. I grew up saying Cressida. You learned it as Cressida. I don't know how they pronounced it or maybe I think when Shakespeare did it, it might have been Cressida. When Chaucer did it, might have been Cressida. But the point is, to have that love of, and I'm sure he taught it and did lectures on it.
Some people don't believe that Chaucer wrote all his stuff. It's like Shakespeare. It's like, it's like taking...
Chaucer only wrote 2 damn books.
No, but it's like, a lot of stuff. But it's like taking a story that's known in the culture and saying, I wrote it, right?
Oh, well. Well, a story, for sure. But who put it in rhymed form and in that form in Middle English? But I'm just saying, imagine that language is so incredibly important to you, and then you're hit with a disease. I mean, language is insanely important for all of us.
It's karma.
Now, how is it karma? What do you know that he did that was so terrible?
He used a lot of language and he was done.
Well, he was known among the Pythons. Each Python had their great points and probably their annoying little points among each other.
What was his
so Graham was unreliable and drunk half the time, but he would come up with brilliant, genius moments that the others couldn't. And he was also a great lead actor for them. You had who else? John Cleese was very professional, but at the same time, probably since he became the most famous of them, was probably a little lazy at times or standoffish or too busy with other things. And he wasn't even there for the last season. He begged off to do other stuff.
Bad.
Yeah. He left the gang when they were doing the final season of Python. And Jones was the most irascible. He was the one who would be so committed and so passionate about a scene or a line that he'd be the one to fight for it and get really, really incredibly angry and high dudgeon and upset and petulant and pouty, not even for the personal thing, but fighting for the joke that he believed in or for this camera angle.
Oh, welcome Ann and Larry.
Welcome Ann and Larry. So he was the biggest pain in the ass apparently among the Pythons together, but they all loved him tremendously. And they were all visiting him.
It's very much like a family, I would think.
In a way, an extended, surprisingly functional group. and I think it was Cleese or maybe it was Idle, or maybe Gilliam, who tweeted after Terry Jones died, well, 2 down, 4 to go.
Oh my God.
Which was funnier actually when it was said about the Beatles when John went, but it
was probably too soon.
But the Pythons were tremendously important to me, to my life. I mean, I will never.
Why? Because they have this absurdist humor?
Absolutely. Absurdist, pushing the envelope, a little dirty, a little naughty, a little very edgy for its time. Because, I mean, I will never forget. I was heading off to bed. It was a Sunday night before school. And I passed by, I guess it must have been the kitchen, maybe the living room. And Dad had on Channel 13. So this had to be like 1970.
But welcome, Bruce.
Welcome, Bruce. And I on the TV, Dad is like watching, and there's this thing of these two men. They're sitting at a desk by a window, and they're just working, and they're talking about regular work stuff. And as they're doing it, bodies start falling outside their window. And people like apparently jumping to their deaths or being pushed to their deaths. And then they start wagering on who'll fall next or whether they're going to jump. And we're like, what the hell is this? I ended up staying for the whole show and becoming almost immediately a devotee, a Pythoneer for life. Because it was also so alien. Because I was used to American comedy and American jokes and American sitcoms of the 1960s, like Gilligan's Friggin' Island and whatever else. I Dream of Jeannie, if those were 60s or maybe early 70s, and Leave It to Beaver back then from the 50s.
I know you love Beaver.
And this is before Saturday Night Live. This is before the Groove Tube. This is before any of American culture really ramped up to the next level that me, a 7-year-old kid, would even have any access to. And suddenly here on Channel 13, there's these guys doing crazy things. And then those wonderful British accents that I never really come across.
It's a different sensibility.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It was a whole world. It was like somebody kicked a window open in my head.
It's like when you travel. So people think, oh, this is what the world is. This is the scope. This is my little, my habitus, my domain, my cage. Yeah. And then when you expand your horizons, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was an oh my God moment. It became non-miss television for me. Every Sunday night in front of that black and white TV, I was seeing these English crazy people. And not every sketch worked. Not everything was working. I memorized everything. Welcome, Alex. So, Python became a religion for me, almost. It became the group that I worshipped. It became for weeks, I talked only with a British accent wherever I went, whether I was home or whether I was in school. They always thought I was a weird kid. And suddenly I was talking like a Brit. And I remember...
Or what you think a Brit sounds like.
Well, the nicest thing anybody did for me was I had a social studies teacher in, I don't even remember what grade. It might have been 4th grade or something like that. Well, actually, it would have been 73, 74-ish.
But should you talk about that after the therapy? Isn't there a non-disclosure clause?
Well, this tells you what teachers make or even made back then. So this guy's teaching in a private Jewish school, but he also has a side job as a hotel clerk, a hotel desk. What do they call those? The people, concierge or something like that. And it was where the Pythons were staying when they were in New York doing their gig at City Center. And he got me autographs from, I don't know if it was all of them. I think he got almost every one of them. These little autograph cards from the Pythons.
So nice.
And I mean, it was, now they're probably worth some. For me, then it was priceless. I couldn't have been more astonished that these legends, that these amazing people were, they wrote their names for this guy.
You're surprised they could write.
Okay. So, and I also remember another Python memory. I was seeing Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
A Welcome Will.
Welcome Will. And I brought in to the movie theater, because this is before VCRs, before you could expect a movie coming out on VHS or DVD or Netflix. Blu-ray or Netflix or anything. So I brought my little cassette tape recorder. I smuggled it into the movie theater, with my Aunt Esther. And we watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Your Aunt Esther in the movie theater?
Well, she smuggled me in under her coat, and under my coat I had the tape recorder, which was kind of neat. And I recorded the whole movie so I could listen to it for hours.
Well, welcome, Alan.
After seeing the movie, I was transcribing it to get all the jokes. That's the kind of Python person that I was. And Terry Jones, he wasn't, I guess, my favorite. But who can forget Terry singing at the organ?
Oh, welcome, honey.
Well, thank you, darling. Welcome, honey.
No, I'm saying,
sing at the organ, and at that moment, his clothes fly off, and you just see him singing bare-assed at the piano, at the organ. Who can forget that? Who can forget, much later, Terry Jones was Mr. Creosote.
Oh, please no.
Perhaps the greatest comic moment in cinema history. No, the producer is the swastika is the greatest. Well, the second greatest comic moment is in Duck Soup. But okay, third greatest comic moment was Mr. Creosote. Yeah, well, let's do Greeley Crimes at All Times. It's 5 to 10. But let me finish this about
Mr. Creosote.
Well, we all know.
Hold on.
That one moment.
Wait a second. Wait.
When Mr. Creosote is sitting at the table. And it's the moment when John Cleese puts the menu down, and the timing is spectacular. Cleese puts the menu down in front of him, and Jones just goes, right? Bring a bucket, I'm gonna throw up. The actual explosion that when Mr. Creosote finally has that wafer thin mint and really, that isn't as funnily done. That could have been better cut and even funnier. I think Family Guy actually beat him in the Ipecac scene that Seth MacFarlane did many years later. But that first moment when Cleese puts the menu down, and who knows how many takes they had to do of that. And I remember reading just how incredibly awful it was to film that scene because it was hot as hell and the stuff just reeked and it went all over everything. And they were literally nauseated to the point of vomiting for real while they were filming the Mr. Creosote scene for The Meaning of Life. But that was Terry. That was Terry's commitment that he had to be in makeup for probably hours to be and do Mr. Creosote, but he took it upon himself to do that. And the Terry, he was one of the best Pepper Pots, right? One of the best of the I can't do the voices anymore. I used to do them so well when I was younger. Oh, Mrs. Premise? He could do those voices as well. What, you don't remember Mrs. Premise and Mrs. Conclusion? Oh, they were beautiful. And what were the other great Terry moments? In fact, he was probably better in the movies, like in Grail. He had great moments, even more so than on the TV show. And then he worked on a couple of shows with Michael Palin, too, that were kind of fun, because he and Palin were a writing team the way Cleese and Chapman were. Then they kind of pulled forces together.
Well, welcome, Bob and Nicola.
Welcome to Bob and Nicola. So farewell to Terry Jones. And yeah, 2 down, man. 2.5 if you count Neil Innes. Not to mention the directors who were important too, and the film editors and all the people who contributed to Python in their prime. But we lost someone else that hit me even harder this week. I don't know if you've heard about this, dear, but you know who died a heroic death? I'm just gonna read this from CNN. I don't know if you've all seen this. Maybe commercials are getting, I'm saying this, too hip and edgy, as shown in an upcoming Super Bowl commercial. I'm sorry, this is just hitting me a little hard.
Wrong?
Mr.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
This is truly sad. Do you know who died?
Who?
Mr. Peanut.
He didn't look good for a while. He's been looking.
He's a shell of him former self. No, but Mr. Peanut, the 104-year-old mascot of the Planters Snack Food Company, has died after sacrificing himself in what appears to be a traumatic road accident. I am not kidding. I'm reading. This is from CNN. Mr. Peanut, Wesley Snipes, and Matt Walsh are shown in this commercial hanging onto a branch after accidentally driving the Nutmobile off a cliff.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's a real chuckle. That's not even a Gene Shepard chuckle, ladies and gentlemen. So the deal is, Mr. Peanut bravely lets go and falls to his presumed death onto the Nutmobile.
Presumed death.
Well, no, and then the Nutmobile suddenly explodes.
Yeah, but we don't know. There are a lot of cliffhangers.
It could be like Hans Molman.
Welcome, Giorgio.
Welcome to Giorgio. I see Giorgio online. And welcome to Nancy and Chris and Eric and Lorraine and Jolinda and all the other folks tuning in. But I'm not. This is not first reported. This has been news for a day or two already. But I'm just still shocked, shell shocked, by the passing of the brave Mr. Peanut in the ultimate selfless act. This is what a spokesperson from Planters said on Wednesday. He sacrificed himself to save his friends, Wesley Snipes and Matt Walsh, when they needed him the most. And I don't know if you knew this, but Mr. Peanut is a war veteran.
Really?
There were posters of him during World War, I forget, it looked more like World War I than World War II, in his hat with a bayonet.
Because people could eat, that's a protein you don't have to refrigerate, you know?
Oh.
Like soldiers could eat peanuts for energy when they're moving, and you don't have to worry about freezing, or it's not like meat. Oh, Eileen joined.
Wow. Okay. Huh. The only thing is, instead of running across the fields, they would eat so much peanut butter that they'd skip eat. Nothing? Nothing at all, huh? Well, they would get there in a jiff. Okay. Anywho, and then he started getting tweets from all these various companies, not to mention people who remember Mr. Peanut, but of course making jokes about him. Mr. Clean tweeted that Mr. Peanut was, quote, always classy, always crunchy, always cleaned up nicely. We'll miss him.
Aww.
And Planters is encouraging people to pay respects by using the hashtag RIPeanut.
Welcome, Johnny and Krista.
Welcome, Johnny and Krista. RIPeanut. And during the Super Bowl, they're going to have a funeral for Mr. Peanut.
Aww.
I mean, it'll be another commercial. They're actually going to have the halftime proceedings be a burial.
Lady Gaga's going to do it with the Stevie Wonder.
But I'll tell you, after the funeral, they're going to put on quite a spread. All right, but thank you, Jelly much. So what else? Social media was full of puns about the passing of Mr. Peanut, as you would imagine. Mine was, did you know that he once was standing too close to Mira Sorvino at an awards ceremony and nutted?
Aww. Why do you like Mira Sorvino?
Oh, because she's one of the Harvey Weinstein accusers. Social media was full. I read that. Wikipedia. Let me remind you of some of the legendary status of the late Mr. Peanut, the mascot and logo of Planters. He was an anthropomorphic legume, dressed like an old-fashioned gentleman with top hat, monocle, white gloves, spats, and a cane. And did you know that Mr. Peanut had a real name, dear? Did you know his full actual English name?
Probably Peter?
No. I wouldn't have guessed this. Bartholomew Richard Fitzgerald Smythe.
Wow.
And the Fitzgerald Smythe is hyphenated. And you realize now that what this is, and Joyce always gets on me for mentioning this, but this is just another aspect of woke culture that is kicking us in the ass. It's like, here is this old white peanut, rich white, like the antithesis of a Bernie Sanders peanut.
How do you know he's white?
Well, look at him. Well, he's very white for a peanut. Look at a regular, typical peanut, the color of it, right?
Maybe he's bleaching his skin.
That could be. Maybe. So they are doing away with, again, the old white man culture, for better and or worse. And Mr. Peanut represents that. This rich guy with a monocle. I'm surprised we still have it on Monopoly. That guy is still the Monopoly logo. They'll probably get rid of him. And sometimes it makes sense to ditch or change your logo and your mascot and your image. I mean, I don't know how. I honestly don't know how we still have a syrup called Aunt Jemima. This boggles my mind. Even though they've made her look more like Holly Berry over the past...
or Uncle Ben's Rise.
Uncle Ben, still with us. Except he doesn't look like, down on the farm, eating watermelon Uncle Ben kind of thing anymore. He looks like a black man who happens to have a chef's hat on. But, Mr. Peanut is this monocle. You think of him, what do you think? He's sort of like the Leona Helmsley.
I think of him just as on the boardwalk, like a character on the boardwalk.
Yes! Remember we used to see him. Oh, and do you know who else tweeted?
Who?
One of the first people or things to tweet was a picture of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile with him standing next to it. Because Planters, Planters, and you know who owns Planters? And I'm sorry to say this, Mr. Potato. It is owned by Heinz, unless I'm greatly mistaken. So the Heinz company is doing this. Potato, are you upset about the death, the demise, if you will? Because I think it was pushed. Right? Somebody shook that branch that Mr. Peanut was hanging from. They wanted a new mascot. They wanted to go with something hipper and edgier. Is there such a thing as a trans peanut?
Does he have an understudy? Maybe the understudy.
Oh.
Sometimes in a play they try to psych out the lead actor so that the understudy gets to take the part.
Whoa. That is an interesting thing. I'll have to... Who else makes peanut butter? There's Heinz. There's
a GIF of Mr. Peanut.
Or a GIF of Mr. Peanut. Get it? That's all. Another...
When I type in peanuts, I get the peanuts.
Oh, maybe it was Charlie Brown.
Yes.
Maybe Charlie Brown was jealous after all those years. Like, damn it, I was Mr. Peanut. Who is this guy? Anyway, just really sad news from the Planters people this week, and we'll all be seeing it. And I don't know, is there anything we can do for the funeral?
I don't know if they want to send flowers.
Yeah.
I eat peanut butter every day.
I know.
I like, actually, I hate to say it, but almond butter better.
No, you don't. You get on Little Jags for a week or two, and you love almond butter, and then you go right back to peanut butter. You do.
I'll put a little. I'll just welcome Stephen.
You know what happens is, you start eating the almond butter, and then you realize that the other stuff is getting jealous because it has peanuts envy. Thank you very much. You are watching the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the Stream. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. It is 10:05 Eastern Time in the Daverhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz, as my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. Thank you to Eric and Chris and Nancy and Giorgio and Deborah for joining us, and so many other folks who've been watching the program. We're here 9 to noonish every Saturday. This is our 730th episode. We're calling it Route 56 in celebration of my very recent 56th birthday. And this is a very prototypical episode of the show. We're going to get on to Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We have story time with the fancy Octopus. And we'll have our Today Yesterday quiz. We'll go inside Broadway for news of the Rialto. And our friends of the Daverhood and our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. I forgot to mention that too, where every week I do a terrible, rude little limerick about someplace in Colorado. So stick around for that. But if you guys are all ready, and Joyce, if you're ready, I do believe it's time. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
It is time to go to Colorado. We've been living away from Colorado for about a year now, but when we were living there, this was our newspaper, the Greeley Tribune. And one of the cool things about this local paper was they would have 2 columns every week. One would be devoted to something called Cop Log, the public record of phone calls that would come into the police dispatch in Greeley and Weld County, Colorado. And these weren't like the serious, oh my God, there's a horrible fire. Oh, please someone come, I'm being sexually assaulted. No, these, did you, that was the one thing. Did you hear that time that Mr. Peanut was almost raped?
No.
Well, he was assaulted. It turned out to be a smear campaign. But anyway, I'm just nuts. So, Cop Log, and then also our friend of the Daverhood, Mike Peters, does another column that is called 100 Years Ago, where he dips into the newspapers back in 1920 and finds the cutest, most nostalgic, most goofy things that were written about way, way back in the day. Let me get a little more light on the subject. I'm going to put this on. That'll help a little bit. There we go. And we'll go into, are you ready, by the way?
Wow, I reached the end of all our 5,000 friends.
Good Lord.
I invited everyone individually.
Yikes. Well, here's our theme music for Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Greeley Crimes and Old Times every Saturday here on the Dave's Gone By program. Are you ready, dear?
Yes, sir.
Police responded to 28th Street Road for a woman who, for no reason, stares down school children.
Wow.
Are you sure there's no reason? How can I be so sure that there's no reason for it? Because I have a million reasons to stare down school children.
I reached the end of all inviting everybody.
Yeah, well, you've got about 2,000 names on there. That's pretty
More
amazing.
than that,
Yeah. So, so anyway, that's one piece of news. That's the kind of story that will come in to Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Police also responded to a convenience store on 8th Avenue, not on 8th and 8th, but for a man crawling through the aisles.
Nice.
What do you think he was looking for?
His contact.
In a convenience store? No.
Oh, his meth.
No. Good answer. What would you think would be on the floor of a convenience store?
Mice?
No.
Money?
No. His brother and sister, of course.
Yeah. Maybe they're very small.
They could be. They could be little midget-sized.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, get your noise ready. Get noises.
What?
This is very important. This is the first time I think we've ever had this.
Okay.
Hold on. Now, sometimes here on the program, especially for old-time things, we've had hobo alerts. Because a lot of the stories back from 1918, 1920 had to do with stories about hobos and the way they were harassed and run out of town by the cops or hopping freight trains. This is a hobo impersonation alert. Hobo impersonation alert. The new high school.
That was a lot of.
That was great. In Stoneham, or Stoneham, as Terry Jones would say, had an enjoyable party for the students. It started as a ragamuffin party and ended with an evening of dancing. But you know what a ragamuffin party is?
Yeah.
It's where they dress up as hobos. Seriously.
That's offensive.
Well, kind of. Yeah, it is. You know what? And the more things change, the more things remain the same. Remember a few years ago, the big thing for rich people who had tried everything would spend the night in jail.
Oh, or live in the favela. Yeah.
Or you're right. Or they would go to Alcatraz and sleep over like it was a hotel for a night.
That's so sad.
Yeah. So this is a ragamuffin party back in the day.
Ragamuffin.
Speaking of, hams, Webster Ham, that was the guy's name, Webster Ham of Hudson, escaped with a miracle this week. He was, this is not good. You know this is never good when a sentence starts like this. He was cleaning the gasoline tank.
Wait.
Nothing ever good comes of a sentence that begins, he was cleaning a gasoline tank of an automobile. Well, what do you think happened? Exactly that. It exploded. Although he was in the center of the explosion, he suffered only a small cut on his forehead and some strong palpitations of the heart.
One would think so.
Yeah.
I would think you'd have a lot of strong palpitations. I think you'd also have a little brown duty in your pants.
More than a little.
I think you would do yourself. If I thought I was being blown up, I think wouldn't you do yourself?
Actually, no. You know why?
You would keep it in?
It would be so quick.
Oh, but wouldn't you just like...
Well, I don't know. Because the thing is, apparently when you die, everything releases and that has to be cleaned up. Yeah. But I think you have to feel extreme fear. So like if you shoot somebody in the head, they'll crap after they die. But if you threaten somebody and they hear the click, they're going to crap themselves. And, you know, even if they don't get shot.
David joined. This is like the 10th.
Welcome to all the Davids. It's David Day. And which is appropriate for my post-65th birthday show. Okay, so police responded to the security gate of the Greeley Air National Guard Station for a woman driving a Chrysler minivan. Why? She claimed to have what in the back seat?
A bomb.
No.
Her brother? Was she the guy in the convenience store? A hobo? A chicken?
Could have been any of the above. Well, not maybe the chicken.
Yeah.
Because she claimed in the back seat of her minivan was an invisible man.
You know, I hate that. Everybody tries to drive in the HOV lane, you know.
But in the HOV lane, you get the dummy. You get a visible, yeah. Oh, that's good. I like that one. Now, police responded to a pizza parlor on 16th Street for a customer, well, no, not that one, who made sexually suggestive threats to employees over a delayed order. Police went to the man's house and they strongly encouraged him and his wife to stop getting pizza from that particular business. Yeah. I mean, how long would a pizza have to be delayed before you got till like 10:30? Just yeah. I told you about 10:15, 10:30. We're good.
Let me get my.
Well, let's do 5. Okay, yeah, go. Because I'll do the.
Okay, let's do.
Yeah, we'll finish this up, then I'll do the ad for Minuteman. Police also responded to a sub shop. I didn't know they were making submarines in Greeley. It's kind of a landlocked place. On 11th Avenue. For an unwanted intoxicated customer. Are there wanted intoxicated customers?
Yes, there are. The happy
in a bar.
Ones. If they're happy intoxicated. This guy probably had some unhappiness.
Now, the caller told police this man was pretending. What do you think he was pretending?
Pretending that he was a bumblebee.
No. And I do miss Bumblebee Man, by the way. I haven't seen The Simpsons in so long. But now, what was this man, this intoxicated man, pretending to be in this...
police.
No, in the sub shop. No.
A chicken?
No.
A hobo?
No. It's an adjective.
Dancing?
Or is it an adjective? It could be an adjective. What? Yeah. He was pretending to be blind.
God.
That is adjective, yeah. Why was he pretending to be blind?
Food.
He was stealing cookies when no one was looking. Because, you know, they have those really good-looking, like I had that delicious cookie today. Then they have those nice cookies. They're not as good.
No, but you have to go behind a counter.
No, they've got those. They've got them on that thing where you can reach in on either side and grab like a sugar cookie or he was making believe he was blind and then filching cookies from the cookie.
Who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Not me.
Now the man stole 2 cookies, but ultimately he paid for them. And then police gave him a courtesy ride home.
If you paid for them, then it's not stealing.
Yeah, well, I guess he kind of...
He was forced to pay for them,
yeah. Okay, let's do another old time, a dope addict. And I'm as big a dope as you can find. But a dope addict who came to Greeley to care for his father was arrested for stealing a pair of shoes, a desk knife, and a fountain pen from his doctor's office.
It's a good combo.
Yeah. Well, they released him after he agreed to return the items, move back to Oklahoma, and take care of his father there. Well, I think it's kind of funny.
They moved his papa.
But this is a guy, you can tell this guy, with all due respect, was Polish. Because if you're going to go to a doctor's office and steal something and you're a drug addict, what would you steal from your doctor?
Drugs,
no, he steals a pen.
Well, maybe he wants to write prescriptions.
He didn't even steal a pen. He just stole a pen. It's like, oh, yes, I need more opioid. I'll take pen.
Why is he like the Stalin guy?
I don't know. My Polish and my Russian are basically the same.
Now a David and a Diane join.
Another David?
Yes.
Well, welcome also to Diane, who, by the way, Diane, guess where I'm working now? Where you used to work. So here we go. We have an advertisement here.
Okay.
You know, a gentleman farmer.
Wait.
You have an animal noise now. Oh. A gentleman farmer seldom raises anything except his hat. A farmer raises crops. Both can raise their standard of vision by wearing glasses prescribed by Paul Dill. There you go. Take your pick, take your pickle. There you go. So Paul Dill, the eyes of T.J. Eckelberg are upon you, ladies and gentlemen. Going reverse postal. That's the title I gave this next item. Going reverse postal. Police responded to 5th Street for a motorist. This is actually recent. For a motorist who threatened to beat up a postal employee.
That's a federal crime.
Well, yeah, the driver got upset when the postal worker blocked him in with his truck for all of 3 seconds it takes to put letters into a mailbox. The motorist was so put out that he promised the postal employee he'd be waiting for him when he finished his route.
That's a federal
Yeah,
crime.
no kidding. Okay. I mean, it's annoying.
It even says on the bus or the train, if you assault one of those people, like the train or bus people, it's 7 years in a can.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
There's a joke in there somewhere. I don't know. Oh, God. I took 7 years in the can when I was going to the baths.
Oh, we had a Tricia, too.
Welcome to Tricia.
That's a new name.
Police, we're going to be finishing up here with Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Police responded to a local mall for 2, not 1, but 2 heavily tattooed men doing what to a small sedan in the parking lot?
Oh, they were fixing it.
No.
They were stripping it?
Opposite.
They were painting it?
No.
Detailing
You're on a
it?
good, in a way, no.
They were
you're doing very well at
spray
it.
painting?
No.
They were
more temporary.
Doing a Paris Hilton's, putting stickers?
I'll give you it. It's like, wait, don't tell me. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
They were covering it with saran wrap, which is what you would do, with a truck. Yeah.
Why?
Doesn't say why.
Is that like
you don't get a why on these?
Is that to like a gang thing or something? I've never seen that.
Yeah, even in college, you toilet paper a house. I've never heard of anybody saran wrapping a sedan. Okay, I gotta go kiss the missus here.
I love you, baby.
There's some tongue in that one. Yay. Anyway, thank you to my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, for joining us for the first part of our Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, live on this Saturday, January 25th, 2020. I've got 2020 vision on this. It is, as I said, our 730th episode. We're calling it Route 56 because I just turned 56 years old. If you want to hear what I sounded like when I was 46 years old, if you want to hear what I sounded like when I was in my early 40s, you can go back and hear the very first episode of Dave's Gone By. We saved it. It was 56 minutes long, 57 minutes long. It was on late night radio on a commercial, barely commercial station out here on Long Island. But we saved it. And we have saved almost every episode that we have done ever since. All the ones we did on terrestrial radio, all the ones we've done on college radio, and for the past couple of years, all the ones that we have done as video casts on Facebook. So they're all here. And where can you find them? davesgoneby.com. Dave, like my name, Daves, davesgoneby.com is the place where we've got the audio files, most of them in pretty good condition. We've got video files of the past 2 years or so. and we even have a separate archive of the interviews we've done, all the amazing people, the folks like I was mentioning, who were attending Forbidden Broadway when I saw it last week, like, Sheldon Harnick, the guy who co-wrote Fiddler on the Roof. I keep coming back to him because it boggles the mind that this man still walks among us and goes to the theater. I saw, I waved, and he was on this program several years ago talking about writing She Loves Me and Fiorello and Tenderloin, Fiddler on the Roof. Wow, right? Wow. He was a friend of the Daverhood. You want to hear the interview with him? All you got to do is go to the archives at davesgoneby.com. Now, we've also been putting our archives in a couple of other places. There's castbox.fm, which has our past year of audio-only archives. And the reason we're putting it there is specifically for people who really want to listen to us as a podcast. Because I know the show is like 3.5 hours long. You can't necessarily sit there in front of a computer all day, all morning, and hear the whole show. But you might be at the gym and on your treadmill, your exercycle, if they still make those. As you can see by my body, I haven't been to the gym in a while, but some of you do. And maybe you're sitting there and you want to see a Dave's Gone By, or just listen to one while you're doing other things, when you're on a train or when you're going even on an airplane or something. You just download it. You can grab an episode of Dave's Gone By, and if you're flying from like New York to California, you start the episode, and by the time you are descending, you'll have the minutes will have flown by like hours, ladies and gentlemen, of Dave's Gone By. So you can do that by downloading our show as a podcast by going to castbox.fm. We've also, and I'm very excited about this, been putting up our archives, both audio and video, at archive.org. It's a wonderful site. I mean, this is a place I have been listening to Gene Shepard shows and old episodes of Vic and Sade that I talked about last week. That is one of these great forgotten gems of broadcasting ever. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff you can listen to there as well. But it's supposed to be, and it is, a not-for-profit archive of American broadcasting. Like, wow. Archive.org, and I like the idea that Dave's Gone By episodes are as accessible as and rubbing shoulders with shows by the likes of Fred Allen and Gene Shepard and the best of old-time radio and air checks from other folks. And there's a terrific interview there with our late friend of the Daverhood, broadcaster Pete Fornatal. He was talking to another a podcaster. And it is a really interesting conversation. And Pete Fornatel gave us a wonderful interview. We were one of the last interviews before he suddenly and unexpectedly died a couple of years ago. So it's all there. Whether you want to go to archive.org for the past year of shows, or castbox.fm for downloading as podcasts our shows, or the whole Gansa archives at davesgoneby.com. Do check them all out, please. And remember that you can email me and you can contact me by going to davesgoneby@aol.com. I still have the old AOL address, davesgoneby@aol.com. Or, of course, feel free to message me right here on Facebook, both during the show and all week long. That was the other thing I wanted to mention about thanking you guys for all the birthday wishes and stuff. It really, if you don't stay on top of it all day long, what happens with Facebook is, it'll load like 10 things at a time. So let's say you've got about 150 messages on your birthday that you want to wade through and get through. So it'll load 10, and you read them and you respond to them quickly, and then you have to hit and load the next 10. And then by the time you get through about 80 of them, it just takes so forever to load. And it's just, you're waiting. It's like the old days when you get that spinning, the spinny wheel, or the upside down, the sand dial. And you're just waiting. Finally, the next 10 load. And of course, if you want to check something, if there's someone who's wished you a happy birthday and you don't know who they are, and you want to see their page, and if you know them or how you might know them, so you go to their page and you say, oh, that's who that is. Yeah, I should say hi to them. And then you go back to the page you were on, suddenly you're back at the top. And now you have to reload. If you're 80 messages through, you've got to load and reload the next 10 and the next 10 to get back where you were. It's annoying, let's just say. But it is never annoying, not annoying at all, to get all the wonderful birthday messages and nice greetings from you that I got on Thursday when it was my 56th birthday. So anyway, how am I spending this post-birthday episode of Dave's Gone By? We have StoryTime coming up, including the fantasy octopus, which is why, of course, I'm wearing my very beautiful shark costume that my wife got me for my birthday. No, I'm not a furry, or what would be the fish equivalent of a furry? I don't even, a fishy, I would imagine. But anyway, yeah, we'll be doing the fancy octopus, plus our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where we will be going to the county of Baca, Colorado. We will have our Friends of the Daverhood and our Today, Yesterday quiz. All of that ahead on Dave's Gone By. But before we get to any of that, you know, I am a somewhat creative person, and I certainly respect and love the creative process, especially live theater. I'm a playwright. I'm an actor of sorts. I am a director of sorts. I'm also a long-time theater critic and theater journalist. And therefore, I love talking about shows and Broadway, love sharing that with you every week. And I do it in a segment that I like to call Inside, as I stall, Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go every week here in the Daverhood, because as I always say, you know, you can find out about all the movies that are opening up and how they're doing, and it's easy to find stuff about the music and the Grammys, but, you know, Broadway, you got to do a little more digging, a little more investigative stuff. So I'm here to share the wonder, the delights of live theater. For example, I want to let you know that a couple of Broadway shows opened this past week, even though we're in the middle of January, which is kind of a dead time for theater, because we have these institutional theaters that are on Broadway now, these off-Broadway theaters that spent years in the trenches doing their work off-Broadway and grew to a point where they could become producing entities on Broadway and even own theaters themselves. I'm talking about places like the Roundabout and the Second Stage Theater and Manhattan Theater Club. They are the reason, really, we still have plays or new plays on Broadway, right? They're the reason that we have 40 shows opening during a season rather than just 20 or something like that. And they keep things going even during the quieter times like January and February, whereas all the other producers are waiting till the spring, or they have the busy fall time from October up through towards the middle of November. So one theater, though, that does produce is the Second Stage Theater, which now owns and operates the Helen Hayes Theater. We'll be talking about their show called Grand Horizons that opened this week on Broadway. But before we get to them, we also have a commercial production of an older play. And it is, I believe, the first time this show has been on Broadway. I believe it was an off-Broadway show from 1982. It did win the Pulitzer Prize. It's a drama called A Soldier's Play. When they make a movie of it with Adolph Caesar and I'm sorry for forgetting the other people who were in it. They changed the title to A Soldier's Story, and I'm sure you all saw it. It's this investigation into a killing of an officer in a black military barracks. And so they get this very ramrod straight person to investigate, a black person who's trying to figure out who killed this much maligned, self-loathing, angry military guy. Who on this barracks, who among these people hated him enough to kill him. So it's essentially a mystery, but within it, of course, is all this sociological stuff about self-hatred within the Black community and different tiers and levels of class and stratification and color. So on one level, it's like a whodunit. It's an episode of everything from Columbo to NCIS and CSI. On another level, it's about institutionalized racism and what that does to a people and to a culture and to the psychology of people who are doing what we would say well in society. So this is, as I said, it's a 1982 play written by Charles Fuller. Kenny Leon, who, unless I'm greatly mistaken, directed that very good play last year about about a woman and her ex-husband, and their son has been in a traffic incident involving a cop, and they're trying to find out what the hell has happened to their son. I should have made more notes, but I'm forgetting the name of that. But it was really well done and well directed. So anyway, Kenny Leon is directing this one. It's a revival of a soldier's play. It opened a couple of nights ago. How did the critics like it in New York? Well, for writing for Theater Mania, David Gordon liked it a lot. He said, hey, it's an old-fashioned melodramatic legal procedural with stock characters and occasionally hoary dialogue. No, there aren't any whores in it. It's an all-male cast, but the issues are so contemporary, it feels like it could have been written yesterday, and the ensemble couldn't be better. So even though it was written at a time where it's following the structure of a well-made play, and some of it we've become so familiar with by watching 80 million episodes of Law and Order, on a second level, this is a really well-done version of that. So a thumbs up from Theater Mania's critic. And at The Hollywood Reporter, David Rooney writes the same thing. He's even more positive about this revival. He says, even if the plotting seems slightly mechanical, the drama remains gripping and the portrait of racism still scalds. So a big thumbs up from him, and a thumbs up also from Adam Feldman of Time Out magazine. He gave the show 4 out of 5 stars. He said it's sturdy instead of creaky, it gets the job done, and it provides a platform for powerful moments and performances. It is a bullet of a play that hits its targets. So yeah, almost nothing is universally acclaimed. Jesse Green, who can, he's our friend of the Daverhood, but he can be an outlier in terms of his critical taste, and he writes for the New York Times. He's co-chief critic of the Times. He said that Law and Order reruns have diminished the effectiveness of this kind of bumpy but worthy drama. So he's kind of middle of the road, a little bit of a thumbs up, but not really too much. However, Charles Isherwood, a former New York Times critic who now writes for Broadway News, said that A Soldier's Play has excellent performances. He says David Allen Greer, who's in the cast, gives powerfully but subtly exposes the roots of his character's inner conflict, capturing the gnawing guilt and burning sense of humiliation that have corrupted his character's humanity. And meanwhile, you've got Blair Underwood in the cast as well. He plays the captain. He's the guy who's investigating what went wrong. By contrast, he shows unflappable dignity. And by the way, just if they want to sell tickets, one of the things that everybody's hearing about in A Soldier's Play on Broadway is that at the beginning of the second act, Blair Underwood has his shirt off, and he has apparently fantastic, amazing abs and a beautiful body. I mean, this is basically topless for about 30 seconds just for the audience to go, and the women's hearts to go aflutter. So if that's going to be turning you on, it's another reason to get tickets to see A Soldier's Play on Broadway, which Charles Isherwood says is both an absorbing story and an emotionally and intellectually stimulating one. So mainly across the board, positive to very positive reviews of this revival of Charles Fuller's play. It's almost 40 years old now, A Soldier's Play on Broadway. So yeah, I want to let you know about a show that is coming up on Broadway, or probably will be at some point in 2 or 3 years. They are adapting, as they do to every hit popular movie that was ever made. Coming next at some point, the screenwriter himself is adapting The Karate Kid into a musical. The book is by Robert Mark Kamen. He wrote the screenplay back in 1984 for this unexpected, huge pop cultural hit. The score is by Drew Gasparini, and Amon Miyamoto is directing, so it's a real polyglot stew of people who are involved, at least at this point, with The Karate Kid, the musical. We know the story, right? It's about this young man who learns karate from a wise Asian elder. It's just been announced for development, which means they're just starting to work on it, to write it, to come up with a few songs. We are away from the point where it's having readings and industry workshops and development and tryouts. I mean, this could be a couple of years down the road, folks, but it is officially in development. The Karate Kid, the musical. Look for it in a theater near you. Awesome. Oh, man. And by the way, to keep tabs on shows like The Karate Kid, not to mention all the shows that are currently playing on, off, and off Broadway, you know what you need. You need Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway since 1944. This is the journal. This is the magazine that people in the entertainment industry get and need when they want to know everything that's happening on all the stages. See the cover of our January issue, you've got this show that I reviewed last week. My Name is Lucy Barton with Laura Linney in it. Also, here's A Soldier's Play. We're just talking about that in Grand Horizons 2. We'll be mentioning how the critics felt about it. But this is, look what you get in every issue. First of all, of course, you've got a table of contents, doy, and on one page, a guide to the Broadway season. Every show that opened or will be opening this particular season on Broadway, all the shows currently running from previous seasons that are still playing, plus here's a little list of all the shows that are opening next season on Broadway, and a little map of the Broadway Theater District. That's how convenient Performing Arts Insider is. You get all that on one page. And then we turn the page again. Look at this, a guide to Broadway theaters and their tenants. These are every single theater on Broadway. Its address, how many seats it has in the orchestra and the place itself, also its address, and what shows are in it and for how long. Again, one simple page. And also who owns it. Is it Niederlander? Is it Schubert? Is it Second Stage? That's on our guide to theaters and tenants. And then the press agent's guide. This is tremendously important to people in the entertainment industry, because if you want to get in touch with someone who is in or designing or directing or creating a Broadway show, these are the folks you go through first. These are the people who handle the press and publicity for every show on Broadway. Here are their contacts, their email addresses, their snail addresses, their phone numbers, all on one fabulous page. And then that's just the beginning of the magazine. That's just the preamble. Now we get to the real constitution of our magazine, our day-by-day section. This is when we show when every single show starts, previews, opens, or closes on Broadway. And you can't find this anywhere else, off and off Broadway as well. There's no place that you get a listing like this of shows that are starting previously. And for example, today is the 25th of January. Do we have anything? We have a couple of things that are happening today. A show called Border People is starting previews at ART New York. Closing today are a couple of shows. Distances Smaller Than is closing at the Abrams Arts Center. Teen Party Massacre, kind of wish I'd seen that. That is scheduled to close at Right Act Repertory at St. Luke's Theater. And then, then we have a bunch of shows closing tomorrow on Sunday. So yeah. Oh, hold on, I want to pick up our dog because he's trying to turn over a little bit. Hey boy. Well, it's time. Oh. As we're taking a break in our commercial, I thought I would share, just to get a few more viewers, our Ufti cameo of the week, because everybody loves dogs and cats on the internet. This is our doggy. Ufti was just sleeping and rolling about, so I thought I'd share him with you. Say hello, Ufti. Ufti, tell everybody how much you love Performing Arts Insider, how important that is to you as a dog, even though you always wish that the Cats, the musical, had taken a different subject. But there he is. That's our beautiful, almost 18-year-old dachshund named Ufti. Lovely boy. And I'm not going to do this on camera, also because I need to clear my throat. But I'm going to change his diaper. This is really exciting. It'll take me half a minute. So go while I'm doing this, go to performingartsinsider.com. Performing Arts Insider. You'll keep this page open. Open a new window and check out performingartsinsider.com. I'll be right with you. Are you looking? Are you checking? Are you seeing how you can subscribe to the most useful, most comprehensive theater guide around? Excuse me. Oh, I'll be right there, folks. Ever get that tickle in your throat? Oh my God. Anyway, the dog is diapered. The throat, I hope, is clearing. The journal is still there after 76 years, ladies and gentlemen. Since 1944, Performing Arts Insider has been and remains the Bible of Broadway. So yes, we have the day-by-day listings. We also have our guide, and this is huge. This is every show currently on Broadway or opening on Broadway in the months and years ahead. So for example, I just mentioned A Soldier's Story, right? Or Soldier's Play, excuse me. Take a look. Here's just the information on this one show. Soldier's Play, drama, Charles Fuller wrote it, Kenny Leon directing, names the designers, who's in the cast and what roles they play, the plot synopsis, notes about the show. For example, did you know that David Allen Greer, is a two-time Tony nominee for the show The First about Jackie Robinson and the David Mamet play Race. There's also some information about Blair Underwood and Kenny Leon. And then, who's the producer? Well, it's a roundabout theater revival. I mentioned that the institutions are what keep Broadway going during the off months, as it were. Also, who's the press agent? How do you contact them? The theater, it's at the American Airlines Theater on West 42nd Street, their phone number. And then when the show is running, it opened on it started previews on December 27th. It opened on January 21st, 2 days before my birthday, and it's in a limited run. That is all the information for just that one Broadway show. Imagine it for every single show currently running or about to, and then we do the same thing for every show off and off Broadway as well. That is why there's no magazine, no journal quite like Performing Arts Insider. How to subscribe? As I said, on the back of every issue, you've got an order form, or just go to performingartsinsider.com. The folks who subscribe, they pay quite a bit of money, but they renew year after year because it's the only place they can get all that information in such a, you can't just open Windows on your computer and find it all. It'll take you like half an hour and you won't find all of it. That's why we're a very special journal, Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. Well, one of the lovely things about even the Bible is that we can be iconoclastic. And we can even be heathenistic and poke fun. And even religious people can sometimes be, shall we say, mocking or playful about things we love. Well, I don't know if anybody loves Broadway and musicals as much as Gerard Alessandrini, our friend of the Daverhood. But he made his claim to fame and continues to by making fun of, sometimes in a vicious way, very often, or almost always in a loving but vicious way, of the Broadway that he and we love. And he does it with this show that he created 38 years ago, Forbidden Broadway. It used to be in a place called Paulson's, and I think it was up in the Triad for a while, and in the Stardust Diner. What they do was, and it was on like a $1.98 budget when they first started. He knew that he was a clever and probably brilliant lyricist, taking songs and doing parodies of Broadway songs. And not just that, but there were parodies that made fun of the shows and the stars and the Broadway scene itself. One of the most famous of all and the funniest of all from the earliest days was the Cheetah versus Rita song, using America from West Side Story. You know, she's Cheetah but not Rita, because they always get people confuse Cheetah Rivera and Rita Moreno. So my name is Cheetah and not Rita. Her name is Rita and not Cheetah. If you've never heard it, you know, go on Spotify, listen to Cheetah Rita from Forbidden Broadway many, many iterations ago. And there was something really charming and hilarious and wonderful about seeing Forbidden Broadway in those early years, when it was just, you know, as I said, $1.98. We want to throw this up there. We're doing this completely out of love. And then, you know, people get a couple of drinks in them and they cheer on. And it's for a real core inside Broadway audience that will get all the in-jokes. But when you do something like that, so personal, so out of love, and then people catch on, and then it grows, and then they realize it, and then it grows. And I credit my aunt, in fact, or people like my late aunt with this, Aunt Sadie, who was your classic, excuse me, our classic New York maiden aunt. And she would be living in the village and taking advantage of she would see shows, and she would go to the cookery and watch Alberta Hunter. And she did a couple of things. She was going to see Robert, whatever the hell his name was, from inside the actor's studio, back when he was basically doing it almost as a glorified college professor. He would just do it, it was either Hunter or CUNY or something like that, where he would just show a movie, an upcoming movie, have a star of the movie, and then people would come and they'd pay a little something, and for $5 you go see both the movie and an interview with an important person, like the director or the star of the movie. And this was before he became iconographic and made fun of on Saturday Night Live and appeared on SNL and appeared himself and became famous himself. No, it was just a thing. It was a New York kind of thing to do on a Sunday morning, was to take his class of like 8 weeks in a row. You'd go see a movie and you'd see the important person connected with it. And he did it for years, kind of under the radar, except at a certain point, the radar pulse gets bigger and bigger. And so Sadie would go to stuff like that. And she would also go to Forbidden Broadway, and she took my family to see it like the first time, right? So I saw it even before I was a theater critic, man. It would have been like the mid to late-ish 80s when it was playing. And we all went. It's just a group. And we had a fabulous time. And I didn't get all the jokes, or even most of them at that point. And it was still funny. And we knew still there was something special about it. Well, now 38 years later, Forbidden Broadway continues. They do it all over the country, all over the world. A couple of years ago when Hamilton opened, Alessandrini was there with his own full-length parody called Spamilton that he did. Well, now there is yet again a new iteration of Forbidden Broadway. And it's always, it's the kind of show where a great version and not so great version is something that should always be playing in New York. I always feel like there are certain shows that should be there. Like Fiddler on the Roof should be playing, I know they just closed the Yiddish version. A version of Fiddler on the Roof should be playing on Broadway or near Broadway all the time. So if any student of theater, anybody, any Jew could go see a production of Fiddler on the Roof because it's that culturally magnificent and important. Maybe My Fair Lady also, or some important Rodgers and Hammerstein show should just be there. Even if it's kind of tired, even if it's mothballed, should be kind of there. Though. Hello, Dolly should be like that too, perhaps, you know? I feel that way about Forbidden Broadway. There should always be, even in a 40-seat theater, for just a couple of people who want to see it on the spur of the moment. And it should always be updated. If I have any criticisms, I have a few actually, about the current Forbidden Broadway, is that and it's not Gerard Alessandrini's fault. You know, you're right, you go through these parodies, you have them written out as music, you have to rehearse them, you have to get the actors to do them, and then by the time your show gets up parodying the show, the thing that you're parodying has already closed 4 months ago. So that's an issue with this version of the show, because they do a bit about Hal Prince, which, I mean, was, I guess, done when Prince was doing his own retrospective show on Broadway long before he died a few months ago. So it's kind of weird that they have this comic tribute to him that's really meant to be about the show he did just before he died. And even, or you expect them to make a little bit more of Jerry Herman, who passed away recently. But of course, it's not like, it's a show. It's a written, scripted show with, a whole list of the musical numbers. It's not like they can just, something important happened in the theater this week, let's throw in a new number. It's not improv. It is what it is. So if shows close, like they make fun of, there's a one mostly non-musical bit when they make fun of Irish drama, like Martin McDonagh and Scott McPherson, and particularly last year's Tony Wayne show, The Ferryman, which was a brilliant, brilliant play. And it just makes fun of the kind of Irish drama that it is, and the lingering violence, and the drunken old grandma who's non-compos mentis. It's really funny. If you had seen The Ferryman, or more specifically, if a couple of weeks ago you had seen The Ferryman, and now you see this parody of it. Problem is, if you've seen The Ferryman almost a year ago, or longer, or you haven't seen it, you would kind of get it, but it's like, well, why is this relevant at this particular moment? Even though we do have another Irish play coming. We have a show called Hangman that's going to be opening in the spring. So then there are kind of moments where you're going, well, I don't know why they're spending time on this anymore. When you realize, well, wait a minute, this iteration of Forbidden Broadway opened a few months ago. And I should have mentioned that. It ran, it got good reviews. It didn't really quite find the audience where it was. And then the York Theatre Company came to Gerald Alessandrini, or vice versa, and said, hey, how about, before we let this go, York is the perfect place for it, because they do older musicals and develop new ones for a very theater and musical theater loving audience. Let's bring it here for a few weeks. And they did, and it's kind of nice that they did. They should have that, maybe they should keep it going twice a week at the York Theatre. Once they start to do other stuff in their musicals and Mufti series, they should just keep Forbidden Broadway 2 or 3 times a week. It will make enough money where you have audiences who want to see it that often. They fill the theater for those 2 or 3 nights, and it would be there. Anyway, and I got some messages here about the theater from Pamela. Hello, Pamela. Let's see. Same thing happens with the Tony Awards. There are shows that close before the greater public know about. Well, of course. I mean, if you're watching the Tony Awards and you live in Oregon and you haven't flown to New York, you're not going to see 98% of the shows that they're talking about. And the ones that do win awards or are nominated for awards, you may get to see them when they tour several months after that. That's just the nature of the beast. So yeah, it's hard to blame Gerard Alessandrini for throwing stuff in that was relevant a year and a half ago, and it's still in there because they've set the show a few months ago. But anyway, let's talk more about this iteration of Forbidden Broadway, which is, as always, really clever. It's never going to have that specialness, unless you're a first-timer, that seeing Forbidden Broadway 30 years ago did. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. If you've seen Forbidden Broadway about 6 or 7 times in your life, as I have, it's more like an old friend than an exciting jolt to the system, right? I mean, I could see Blue Man Group next week, and having seen Blue Man Group about 5 times in my lifetime, as magnificent as it is, I'm like, oh, it's Blue Man Group again. Well, I remember that. It's not the same. So there's an element of that to those of us who've seen a lot of Forbidden Broadways. There are moments that work, some laugh out loud stuff, and a lot of chuckle like, oh, that's very clever. I will say the sound could use some work. There are times when the piano, and by the way, the piano player is terrific, but his piano is a little loud sometimes compared to the performers, and it's not just because I'm partially deaf in this ear. I think they could balance that out a little better, because you don't want to miss the lyrics. And there are times when you miss the lyrics, and that's the whole point of Forbidden Broadway. It's got music direction and piano by Fred Barton, and he's been with the show for a very long time. Jerry McIntyre is the choreographer. That's a lot of fun. Alessandrini wrote and also directs the show. And it's still got brio. It's still spry. There are a couple of performers who aren't perhaps the best that I've seen. In fact, I'm not going to really name names. I will name a couple of standout performers, though. And those include Jenny, excuse me. Pardon me. It's tough when I don't get breaks. I have to do this for hours straight. But Jenny Listern is a Judy Garland bit that she does really, really well. There's, I think, my favorite of the show is a tribute to shows that were flops back in the day, but that might sometimes be worth a revival and sometimes not. And they project the old album covers and playbill covers of them. And it's nostalgic, but it's also done in a funny way. And that's one of the best things forever about Forbidden Broadway. There are times, and this absolutely happens, whether it's a classic old Broadway number that they're parodying, or even if they're doing something from Hadestown, or some of the more recent shows, and you hear the melody, and there's something about being among a group of theater lovers and theater cognoscenti, and these wonderful people who know the theater and love it and are putting on a show for you, doing it and making fun of it, and you hear those notes, and something either goes right to your spine, or you start to cheer up a little bit, and you get a lump in the throat, and you hear how good some of that music is, or some of those songs were, and you're reminded, oh my God, that number from Hadestown is terrific, right? Or you're reminded from an old Sondheim number, or Rodgers and Hammerstein song that they're playing, or a Jerry Herman number. They do a song from Mac and Mabel that they poke fun of. And it just gets to you, and that whole flood of theater experience that you have in just a couple of notes, you're like, oh, that song. And then suddenly you're laughing at it because they're having funny lyrics and poking fun. I also want to compliment, as it were, Aileen Mayagoyita, or gosh, I'm sorry, Maya Joytia. I really don't know how to pronounce it, but she is, first of all, gorgeous. And second of all, she does a Bernadette Peters that is pretty darn wonderful and funny. And a couple of other things as well. She's pretty versatile. So she's definitely a standout, as it were, in a lot of ways, of the current Forbidden Broadway Next Generation cast. One of the things that's good about this iteration is, and a lot of other critics have said this about this Next Generation, Alessandrini isn't just repeating old tropes, and he isn't just going back to the old well of, well, this parody was really funny 25 years ago, and let's bring back this greatest hit. He's really looking at current Broadway and the new crop of Broadway shows, and new crop of Broadway people, and saying, well, theater is really, finally, commercial Broadway, for better or worse, is changing. There's new visions out there. They're doing classic musicals and plays, but they're taking Oklahoma and making it a tragedy, which it kind of always was, but they're showing, let's show the darkest possible side of Americana when we do Oklahoma, which is exactly what the current Oklahoma on Broadway does. Let's make everything really miserable when we do our new musicals. And Alessandrini's poking fun of that. He's poking or looking at the current crop of Broadway tourists who are coming in, and so many young shows for younger people. For years, everybody complained and fretted about the old gray lady, about the fabulous invalid, that what happens when the blue hairs die, when the Wednesday matinee ladies stop coming, and the theater party ladies stop coming, and the people who always seem to be 80 years old going to the theater stop going to the theater, and the next generation can't afford to go, and they're not coming to the theater. And then there's this realization in this iteration of Forbidden Broadway that somehow there's always a new audience, and that they're doing shows, for better or worse, that are geared towards, whether it's Be More Chill, whether it's The Lightning Thief, whether it's Mean Girls, whether it's Hamilton, that are not for the 70 and 80 years old. This Oklahoma is not for someone who remembers Shirley Jones in it, right? These Irish plays Or, well, actually, they are sort of close to OKC and Millington C, so no. But you know what I'm saying. And Allison Dreamy, that's his theme for this. Literally, it's called Forbidden Broadway Next Generation. This idea of who is going to be the next Broadway, because they're here. It isn't, oh, Broadway's going to die because no one's going to come to see it. There are new visions, new ideas, new people, new audiences looking for stuff in the Broadway theater. And yeah, it's become this multi-billion-dollar industry. And going to Broadway is this event now. Or kids want to see Dear Evan Hansen, and it appeals to them. And they're going to go 10 times to that because it speaks to them. And that's good and bad, right? And they'll save up for a $120 ticket or something like that. So, and they represent that also on stage with a young person. They actually have a young boy, he's got to be in his early teens, who is part of the cast. And I'm not going to say anything else about it. It's a nice idea, you know, and it makes its point. I'll be nice, but it does drive home the point of, you know, Alessandrini is not standing still, just the way that Broadway itself is not standing still. So is this the best Forbidden Broadway I've ever seen? No. And I won't say it's even close. Is it worth seeing? Oh gosh, yeah. Is it wonderful to have Forbidden Broadway back? Certainly. Should you go see it if you've never seen it, or it's been 20-something years since you've seen it? And you get to see it, by the way. I don't know if it works better in a bar kind of thing where have drinks and a little dessert and you're at tables, and it's a more Hamish atmosphere than sitting in even a cozy theater like the York Theater up on Lexington and 54th or 56th. That I'm not sure about. But what I am sure is it's great to have Forbidden Broadway back as always. Well, that wraps up or does it wrap up our Inside Broadway? No, I got a little bit more. I'm sorry, to talk about Broadway. I want to remind you that you're watching our Inside Broadway segment on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. It's our 730th episode. We're calling it Route 56, live on this Saturday, January 25th, 2020. It is 11:04 in the morning Eastern Time in the Daverhood. So I want to remind you, you know, we're talking about saving up $120 a ticket, reminding you that this is a good time to buy Broadway tickets, even if you don't belong to some of the theater clubs and the theater outfits where you can get cheaper tickets and things like that and play lotteries. It's Broadway week. It's starting on January 1st and it runs until, I think, February 9th. Buy one full-price Broadway ticket, get one free to most shows on Broadway. Not all of them, not the hottest tickets in town, but the second hottest tickets, you probably could. And the third and fourth hottest tickets, you bet you can. So instead of spending $150 for one seat, you can spend $75. You know, in these days, that sounds more reasonable. And you get, you know, two tickets for $150 instead of one. How do you do this? You go to nycgo.com. nycgo.com. And they even have a thing where, you don't want to sit in the boonie seats. You want good seats if you're going to spend still that much to go to the theater. Well, you can pay an upcharge of $20 a ticket when it's available. And then you get an orchestra seat. You get a much better seat. And I do want to remind you that this is a great time to take advantage of New York because they want to sell tickets. They want people in, New York people in, since the tourists have all gone away and the kids are all back in school. January, February is also a good time to go out in New York. It's restaurant week in New York City and on Long Island where they have those special deals. It's like $30 for lunch, for a 3-course special lunch at dozens and dozens of restaurants, or $40-something for dinner, 3-course dinner. Check them all out, but make sure, first of all, you look for Restaurant Week, and more importantly, it's Broadway Week on Broadway, nycgo.com. And last thing I want to tell you in our Inside Broadway segment is a rumor. There is a rumor that a show that is going to be coming to Broadway, but it's a bit more solidified now, that Once Upon a One More Time, a musical based on the music, the hits sung by at least, and sometimes co-written by Britney Spears is setting its sights on the Marriott Marquis Theater to open in late July on Broadway. So they know this has been in development, and they know that it's trying out in Chicago in April and May. But we haven't had word yet that it's really official for Broadway. Now we kind of do, even though it hasn't been triply officially confirmed, that the Marriott Marquis will house Once Upon a One More Time, which has a book by John Hartmere, and it's directed by Kristen Hanji. And it's all about, it's not like an autobiographical thing. It's about a fairy tale princess and her princess friends who get a taste of feminism and using the Britney Spears catalog to tell that particular story. Oops, I guess they did it again. So be looking for that on Broadway in a few months from now. Well, that concludes our Inside Broadway segment for this Saturday, January 25th. We have more to come of the Dave's Gone By show. Don't go away.
It's the famous gay white way where the night is bright as day. Ain't Broadway grand?
It's not just a thoroughfare, it's a tingle in the air. Ain't Broadway grand?
It's excitement, it's romance, it's all fun and song and dance. This wonderland, you can be a millionaire quicker here than anywhere. Ain't Broadway grand?
It certainly is. It certainly is. And it's grand to do this episode of, and every episode of Dave's Gone By right here on Facebook, the Facebook page, Dave's Gone By. Please get your friends, get your family, get your relatives, get your enemies to come and tune in every Saturday from 9 to noon-ish Eastern and join us here in the Daverhood. Well, we have still other stuff to do on this episode of Dave's Gone By. We have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up. We also have Storytime and our friends of the Daverhood. But before we get to all of that, I noticed that just a little while ago, my cousin Cynthia and her husband Jeff tuned in to the program. So it's perfect timing because we have our quiz. We have our trivia quiz called Today, Yesterday. Since today is January 25th, we like to look back in time and see things that happened in history on various January 25th, because there have been thousands of years of them, of course. So that's why we call it our Today, Yesterday quiz, and you get to play against my cousins. Yes, indeed. We know there's an answer, and you've got to come up with the answer for yourself. No fair wikiing, no fair Googling. The whole idea is it's a trivia quiz. Can you answer before my cousins Cynthia and Jeff type in their answers on Facebook? So, without further ado or a don't, let's get to our 8 questions in our Today, Yesterday quiz. And we try and make some easier, some tougher. Usually Cynthia and Jeff do pretty well. Usually there's something like 6 and 2 or something like that. Let's see how they do and you do today, January 25th. Today, yesterday, 1858 is the year. Musical history was made today at the marriage of Queen Victoria's daughter because the wedding march was played. It was actually taken from a suite of incidental music inspired by Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Who was the composer? Okay, so this was a big deal because this piece of music began being associated very seriously with weddings, thanks to Queen Victoria's daughter using it at her marriage. So it was on this date in 1858, but the march itself was taken from a whole suite of music that was based on A Midsummer Night's Dream who was the composer. And I'm going to give it a moment. And also, I'll make it a multiple choice if I don't get an answer. So I'll see if you want to try, Cynthia and Jeff, before I give you a multiple choice on this. Do you think you know it? Now, I'll give you a hint. It wasn't Philip Glass. Wasn't Shuby Taylor. And wasn't Arvo Pärt. Any? No? Nothing yet? Okay, we have an answer so far. It may be right, it may be wrong. Let me give the multiple choice then to everyone else. Was this incidental music, the suite that was written, From Whence the Wedding March Came, written by George Friedrich Handel, Mozart, Gustav Mahler, or Felix Mendelssohn? Handel, Mozart, Mahler, or Mendelssohn? Gonna give it a couple of seconds. As I said, we do have an answer already from Cynthia and Jeff. Let me get my my musical accompaniment. And the answer is, let's see if I can't literally play it note-wise, but I can play the sound of the march. Yeah, okay, that's enough of that. And the answer, by the way, Cynthia and Jeff, you are 1-0 already today. Well done, that is correct. It was Felix Mendelssohn who composed this music back in 1842. And it was actually played a few times elsewhere, the whole suite for Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare. But it was the royal wedding that made its reputation as, quote, a wedding march. And actually, I think I just played Pomp and Circumstance. Oh, I just screwed that up, didn't I? No, it's the wrong thing. I just did Elgar instead of Mendelssohn. Forgive me. It's, well, it's been so long since I got married. What the hell is it? It's, oh, man, it's flown out of my head. Everybody sing it for yourselves. Good Lord. What is it? Oh, it'll come to me when I'm not really thinking about it. Wow. God, all this coughing is just making the brain cells in my mind explode. Forgive me for that. But no, wow! I can't think of the bloody wedding march. This is killing me. This is like, this is, Terry Jones had that terrible thing of not remembering or not knowing how to use language. Let's hear this so that I can go on with my proper life. I'm just going to YouTube this, literally. I just want you to hear this. This is from the Berlin Philharmonic. I can only play a little bit. Oh, of course. Isn't it great when the host of a quiz looks like an idiot? Because we all, the Art Flemings and the Alex Trebeks, we all look so smart, and we all look so put together when we're reading these quiz questions. And it always looks like, no, well, of course the answer is this, when we're reading everything off a card. So here I am telling you, oh, it's Mendelssohn, of course, the wedding march, the Midsummer Night's Dream suite, and it goes like this. It's like, wow. Anyway, moving on to the next question of our Today Yesterday quiz. 1915, the year. Something happened today in both New York and San Francisco at the very same time. It involved two men who did something quite similar 40 years earlier. What was it? Okay, 1915. 1915, something happened in New York, in San Francisco. Okay, we were talking just before about the idea of going coast to coast, right? So something happened at the same time, and two men were involved. And in fact, these same two men were doing something similar a few or way back when, many years earlier, 40 years earlier to be exact. And by the way, hello to Cousin Mark. Welcome, and join us also for our Today Yesterday quiz. As a matter of fact, Mark, you're playing against my other cousins, Cynthia and Jeff. So, Mark, can you answer this question? What happened today in 1915 on one coast and on the other at exactly the same time? I'm going to have to do a countdown on this until I get some kind of answer. I know this music I won't forget. Dum 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 dum. I'm not saying dum dum. I'm saying la 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 la. I need an answer. La 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 la. Boom boom. Okay. Are we? Oh, a hint. Do I need a hint? Gosh, not sure I can give a hint on this one. I had a hint, but I can't recall it. There's a hint. Believe it or not, there's a hint in that clue. It's a punning kind of hint. I had a hint, but I can't recall it. You think about it. Give me another couple. Oh, Stephen! Well, by the way, welcome to Arlene and to Stephen. Happy New Year to you, Stephen. He was part of our New Year's show also. Okay, I'm going to give a couple more seconds, and then I'm going to have to give you all the answer to this question of what happened on January 25th, 1915. Oh, well, no. Do I have a... No, nothing. Oh, hold on. I got to take this. Let me just take this. Hold on. Hello. Hello. Who is calling, please? Watson, come here. I need you. Mark, you kind of have it. I'm gonna give it to you all. Here's the deal. It was Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas A. Watson. They were making the very first transcontinental telephone call from both coasts. 40 years earlier, they had not on the same date, but 40 years earlier in time, they did the first phone call that was like 2 miles away from each other back in 1876. But this was the first time that went, oh, yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Too late. No, I can't give you that one. By the way, welcome to Frank. Frank, our friend in the Daverhood, who has played Groucho and many, many other roles over the years. So welcome to you too. We do have, well, you did get phone call. I'll give you a half on that one, Cynthia, but I had to give you all hints on that. Let's see how we do on the next question in our Today Yesterday quiz. Here we go to 1924. Okay, January 25th, 1924. Something happened yesterday, okay, in the French Alps, in the town of Chamonix. And 4 days later, an 11-year-old girl began her rise to fame. What happened? And those items are connected, okay? So back in 1924, in a town in the French Alps called Chamonix, and then just 4 days later was very important to an 11-year-old girl who began her rise to fame. What happened on January 25th, 1924? Let me hold up our all-important sign. Now, Cousin Mark or Cousin Cynthia and Jeff, you want to take or Frank or any of the other folks, or Praveen, all the people who are tuning in, you can all type in and play this game. You don't win anything except bragging rights, of course, if you do get some of these answers correct. But it is our Today Yesterday quiz on Dave's Gone By. What happened on this date in the French alpine town of Chamonix? Okay. I don't know how long our delay is also in terms of what I'm saying versus when you actually see it on the broadcast. So I always have to delay a bit and stretch this stuff out more than I like to. But okay, I'm going to need an answer. soon. Please. Today, at some point. Oh, kind of nice to hear the silence of me not talking, isn't it? Well, this is death for a radio person, but still. Okay, I'm going to have to give it, I really can't. No. Okay. Oh, so we have a couple of things here. They're not really quite right. I can't give them to you so far of the two answers that we have. I'm going to give a countdown now. So what happened specifically today in 1924 was the opening ceremony of the very first Winter Olympics, and it was done in the alpine town of Chamonix. So Cynthia and Jeff came up with skiing and champion, so there was a hint that they knew it had to do with the Olympics, but this was the first Winter Olympics. And what I was talking about in terms of the winning young girl was Sonja Henie, who was more of an ice skater than a skier. She made, here's the deal, she was terrible. She stank up the first Winter Olympics. But then people fell in love with her. She was 11, right? And over the next 3 Olympics, she came out and won gold. So that's also what made her such a huge star. But anyway, okay, and Mark, no, Cousin Mark, it was not the first movie with sound, although your year timing is probably pretty close on that. It was probably closer to 1927, I would imagine, when they first started experimenting. But anyway, okay, we're moving on with the next question for our Today, Yesterday quiz. January 25th, 1931. Born today in Decatur, Alabama. This actor would go on to star in a string of 1970s Walt Disney films like $1 Million Duck, I remember seeing that twice in the movie theaters, The Ugly Dachshund, and, of course, Herbie the Love Bug. Still, this actor is most legendary for his brief Broadway turn as the lead, Bobby, in the original cast of the Stephen Sondheim musical Company. Name him. No, I should sing something from Company, shouldn't I? It's the little things we do together, that make perfect Dave's Gone By quizzes. It's the answers that you sometimes get, answers that you don't get yet, answers that I try to vet, that make this show a joy. We have an answer. Oh boy, it was quick. I lost my little tapper, but let's do it. There we go. Let me get this. And Cynthia and Jeff are definitely being alive with us here on Dave's Gone By. They got it. It's Dean Jones, the late Dean Jones. I remember, growing up as a kid, seeing him in all these Disney movies. And more famously, if you are a theater buff, you remember the famous Pennebaker documentary about the making of Company, the cast album, where Dean Jones was just going through all these personal problems and a divorce. And he promised Hal Prince and Stephen Sondheim, he said, look, I want to leave. I got to deal with my own personal life. And they told him, look, at least let us open the show with you. Get us through the opening week, and then we'll replace you with Larry Kurt and be on the original cast album. Thank God he stayed, because his version of Being Alive is one of the great pinnacles, if you listen to the cast album, of musical theater. If you know theater, you have the cast album for Company. But anyway, yes, well done. Dean Jones indeed. And he ended up, he kind of gave up theater for a while. Then he became a born-again Christian. Okay, he found his way and started doing a lot of Christian-related movies and voice work. And he did apparently a terrible Christian-related Broadway musical, but he also showed up on Murder, She Wrote and other shows and films as well. So, and he only died just a couple of years ago, the late Dean Jones. All right, we're about halfway through our Today, Yesterday quiz. How you all doing? Time for our next question, 1949. Today, Yesterday. This ceremony was held for the very first time at the Hollywood Athletic Club. Honorees included the unforgettable Shirley Dinsdale, The Necklace, and Pantomime Quiz. Name the event. Today, yesterday, 1949. A ceremony held for the very first time in a place called the Hollywood Athletic Club. What was it? Cynthia and Jeff are saying that they are 2.5 for 4, not too shabby. You're getting very sleepy, very sleepy. You were going through your parents' wallets and send me the green paper. So I'm asking now, what happened in 1949 at the Hollywood Athletic Club, where we had honorees that included Shirley Dingsdale, The Necklace, and Pantomime Quiz. What could that have been? And the answer? Oh, it's like I'm playing with my cousins. This is fantastic. This is like going away. Instead of doing a cousins club, we all just hang on the internet and quiz each other like Trivial Pursuit. But this is neat. Cousin Mark said first Academy Awards, whereas cousin Cynthia and Jeff say it was the Emmy Awards. And the answer is, well, kind of like the clue would be Pantomime Quiz, because that is and sounds like a TV show. It was, in fact, the Emmy Awards, the very first ones. And what was interesting, if you read about them, is that they were very specifically only that year for shows emerging out of Los Angeles. So whatever was going on New York TV or anywhere else in the country didn't count. It was a very LA-centered event. And it was only a couple of years later that the Emmy Awards took in more national TV. Okay, let's move on to our next question in our Today, Yesterday quiz. 1964, yeah! 2 days after I was born, January 25th, 1964, a company called Blue Ribbon Sports was founded. Though 7 years later, it would change its name to a name based on the Greek goddess of victory. Name what it became. Ooh. Let's move this around. Have some visual interest. They'll get more people tuning in. So again, on this date, January 25th, 1964, a company called Blue Ribbon Sports was founded. That isn't the name that they kept forever. What was? Trying to think of, let's see. Blue Ribbon Sports, the name. Pardon me for just one moment. You think about that answer. Well, I blow my nose. There we go. Oh, we have an answer. Yay. Let me see. Cynthia and Jeff are chiming in. Did they get the answer correct? And they did indeed. They changed Blue Ribbon Sports into a name that was based on the Greek goddess of victory. I never heard of Nike, the goddess, but Nike indeed, the switch, the blue swirl that was formed originally back in 1964 on this date. Well done. Cynthia, I wouldn't have gotten that one. Well done, Cynthia and Jeff. I would have thought of maybe Pabst Blue Ribbon or something. Anyway, 1971 is next. Speaking of 1971, January 25th was a bad day for Milton Obote. This brutal and corrupt president was overthrown by a leader who turned out to be even more brutal and corrupt, and a cannibal. Name the country and its next dictator. Okay, so this was 1971, January 25th, on that date. It was a bad day for a fellow named Milton Obote, who was not a good guy himself, but he was usurped, if you will, thrown out in a coup by someone even worse. We have an answer? Oh, very good, very good. Cousins Club rules, man. All of them got it. The answer is correct. It was Idi Amin Dada, as opposed to Idi Amin's mama. and the country being Uganda. And the interesting thing about, I'm wondering what tipped it, was it the cannibal bit? I was curious about what part of the clue that people, oh, of course, it's got to be so-and-so. But yeah, and the weird part is that after Idi Amin was deposed or killed or whatever, Milton Obote came back, and he was even more brutal and horrible again. And then the extraordinary thing about Uganda and Ugandan politics is that after they finally got rid of Milton Obote the second time, Milton Obote's wife or daughter became the president of Uganda. What the hell is wrong with that country? But anyway, we're in our yesterday quiz, and I think we have one more question left in our quiz today for January 25th. And by the way, welcome to John. John, where were you? You usually tune in so much earlier. You missed the whole Inside Broadway segment where I was talking about Forbidden Broadway. Oh, well. Anyway, we go to 2010. 2010 for our last question in our Inside Broadway quiz. A Boeing 737 leaving from Beirut crashed shortly after taking off, killing all 90 people on board. This was Flight 409 that crashed in the Mediterranean, and the crash was actually blamed on mismanagement by the flight crew. Though the plane left from Lebanon, the aircraft was actually from what country? This might be a toughie. Unfortunately, it's a toughie because so many airliners have had crashes over the years and hijackings, but this was kind of a pretty big memorable one. On January 25th, 2010, it was a Boeing 737, crashed shortly after takeoff, killing 90 people. The plane was going from Beirut to the home country of this particular airline. What country was it, and what was the name of the airline? This is kind of the same thing. I'm ending with a toughie, I know. Let's see, take a stab. Our last yesterday question. What could it be? Any answers? I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. Okay, I have one from cousins Cynthia and Jeff. Do I have one, or the same one perhaps, or not, from cousin Mark? Or from anybody else? Remember, anybody can type in. As part of what makes it fun is that when people offer their answers, whether they're correct or not. All right, we have answers. Here we go. Okay, now, it was Flight 409 that crashed in the Mediterranean. Apparently, the reason for the crash was not aircraft failure. It was actually just mismanaged and flying badly or some kind of communication breakdown among the people who were handling the plane. At least that's the official story. The airline vigorously denied that what went wrong was their fault. And the airline was not Air Egypt, and it was not Air France either. Even though the aircraft itself, the Boeing, was created for Ryanair, it wasn't Ireland either. It was Ethiopian Airlines, and it was on its way to Addis Ababa when the airline crashed. So, no. Sorry to put you on a low note, but I think you guys did pretty well on the quiz. Cynthia and Jeff went 6.5 for 8. I don't know if Cousin Mark was there for the whole. How'd you do, Cousin Mark, for the question that you were there for in our yesterday quiz for January 25th? Well, you can tune, or you can let us know. But yeah, we try and do this quiz every week because it's kind of an audience interactive thing here on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream, where it is 11:36 in the morning Eastern Time in the Daverhood. Did I remind you? I don't think I did. That Dave's Gone By is brought to you in part by the fine folks at Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway. Since the mid-1970s, Hewlett Minuteman has been owned and operated by the Toron family. Really cool people, and they do fine quality work, reasonable turnaround times, and they're great folks to work with. I mean, they've been in essentially the same place for the past 40-something years. Like Miles and Carlene, the parents, started the franchise. Now Carlene and the two sons, they run it. And they're just, I've been using them long before I even started doing this program. They do everything from, single-sided black and white copies to double-sided, to color copies, to copies on special paper, big paper. They're known for silk screening and putting logos and like sports team designs on things. They can take your business corporate logo, put it on calendars or sporting equipment or sporting goods or sporting wear or things that don't even involve sports, like pens and pencil sets and mylar balloons and giant flyers and banners. Plus, they're known for holiday cards and wedding invitations. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they can do it all, big and small. And if you tell them Dave sent you from Dave's Gone By, you get 10% off any job, big or small. So you walk in there, you have one page black and white copy, might be, I guess, 10 cents or something like that, but no, it'll be 9 cents. You'll get a penny back if you tell them Dave sent you. And of course, if you go with a giant project, and you've got to spend several $100s, well, you start to save some money there. 10% off any job at Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway. They're there until noon today, so give them a call, 516-569-5577 in the heart of Hewlett, Long Island, 516-569-5577. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they are the copy kings. And I always feel like a king when I get to do this program, Dave's Gone By, every Saturday right here in the Daverhood on our Facebook page. Do tell your friends about the Facebook page. Tell them about davesgoneby.com, which is where our archives reside, and you can find out the most information about the program. I forgot to, in our Inside Broadway segment, I forgot to talk about Grand Horizons. I'm sorry. That show opened also on Broadway this past week at the Helen Hayes Theater, and the reviews were almost uniformly good. I'll just do this really quickly, since I did the work on this, that a lot of the critics felt like it was kind of an old-fashioned sitcom-y show, but it was still funny and surprisingly fresh and poignant in certain points as well. So it's like a really good, newish sitcom about, well, a family. So that's called Grand Horizons. It's by Bess Wall at the Helen Hayes Theater and stars James Cromwell and Jane Alexander. So it's got some star power too as well. Kind of looking forward to seeing that. Anyway, what else do we have to do on this episode of Dave's Gone By? Well, we've got our story time. Oh yes, as promised, and that's why I'm wearing this shark costume. We're going to go under the sea for our fantasy octopus story, God knows, and our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. But before then, even though this is one of the rare occasions when we don't have a guest calling in, we will over the next couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, I'm very, very excited because I think next week, we're going to have Steve Kaplan as a guest in the Daverhood. Now, Steve Kaplan is an expert on comedy. You have me at the word expert, let alone comedy. But this is a man who not only has written books about comic screenwriting and how comedy works, but he's put his money where his mouth is as a director and a producer, because he was the guy who founded, back in like the 1970s and 80s, Manhattan Punchline, which was a theater, an off-Broadway theater in New York, dedicated to comic plays. Love to find out why, that went away. It wasn't still around. I imagine it's just because Hollywood came calling and wanted him to write scripts and punch up scripts by other people. We're going to find out. But if you want to know about, and now he gives seminars, and he does, is essentially, remember that guy, he probably still does it, who gives the screenwriting seminar over a long weekend, charges several $100s for it and teaches you the methods of proper screenwriting and story structure. Robert McKee, I think the guy's name is, or was, if he's still doing it. But this guy does some of the same things for comedy writing, for stand-up comedy and writing for sitcoms and writing comic screenplays. So Steve Kaplan, going to be a friend of the Daverhood in a week or so. We're also working on a pretty well-known Broadway and regional theater director that we're hoping to get on in a week or 2 or 3. So stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, today is one of those rare occasions where it's just Dave. You can hear it in my throat, but love doing the show anyway. And we're very proud, though, of the guests that we've had on Dave's Gone By over the last few months or many, many years that we've been doing the show. We call them the Friends of the Daverhood because we think of them as friends and kind of an extended family. And we're proud when, even long after they've been on the show, they end up doing something else. Somebody's in an off-Broadway show, they come on our show and talk about it, and then 3 years later, they're in a Broadway show or a different off-Broadway show. What are our Friends of the Daverhood up to? So here, this week's Friends of the Daverhood, here's what's going on. For example, want to let you know that our friend David Mandelbaum, who is the artistic director of New Yiddish Repertory Theater in New York, he is co-starring in the company's show, The Labor of Life, and that will be happening at New Yiddish Rep on West 39th Street now through the 26th, which is tomorrow. So get there and see it. Also playing now through the middle of February, Edward Einhorn's autobiographical play, Doctors Jane and Alexander. I think it's all about either his parents or his grandparents. Doctors Jane and Alexander. It's a production of Untitled Theater Company number 61, for which he's artistic director and founder. And that is taking place at the Here Theater on 6th Avenue, playing now through mid-February. As I mentioned, Forbidden Broadway by our friend Gerard Alessandrini, playing through mid-February at the York Theater up on Lexington and 56th Street. Anne Harada is appearing in a musical called Emoji Land. That is at the Duke Theater on 42nd Street. It was just extended, so I have it through early March. It might actually be through mid-March now. Emoji Land off Broadway. Richard Eyre, former director of of England's National Theatre. He's still directing, and he directed the very, very watchable, very good Broadway show, My Name is Lucy Barton, featuring Laura Linney. That is at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater. It's a Manhattan Theater Club production now for a limited run. Letting you know that Little Shop of Horrors, I thought it was closing last week. No, it was extended. It's playing through mid-March off Broadway at the West Side Theater, and of course it features music by our friend Alan Menken. On Broadway, Ray Bahur, I think I pronounced it right this time, Ray Bahur is in Chicago at the Ambassador Theater now through the end of March. Katsura Sunshine is in Rakugo, good Lord, these names, that's at the New World Stages on West 50th Street playing through mid-April. Hadestown, I was listening to the cast album yesterday, as a matter of fact, and liking so much of it, and so much of that is credit to Andre DeShields, the Tony winner, and our fairly recent friend of the Daverhood. You can see Hadestown at the Walter Kerr Theater. Speaking of amazing scores, Hamilton features Daniel Breaker playing Aaron Burr, that is at the Richard Rogers Theater. Come From Away, a wonderful show written by Irene Sankoff and David Hine at the Gerald Schoenfeld Theater. Moulin Rouge features our friend Danny Burston at the Hirschfeld Theater. And of course, don't forget all the great stuff of that they do for years now. Jim Caruso's Cast Party every Monday night at Birdland. Oh, I missed a couple of things that I wanted to talk about in January. For example, today in Seaford, Long Island, if you want to brave the elements because it's kind of raining out there, there's a private concert, in Seaford, New York, featuring, rented lips, featuring our friend Mike Agranoff. If we want to find out how to go and more about this concert, email songbox@optonline.net. Optonline.net. Songbox is the screen name there. Mike Agronoff, we got that. MikeAgronoff.com is also a place to find out all the different places that he does his folk and acoustic music. Jerry Blavat's Disco, Rock, and Soul Show. Now, Jerry Blavat, or it might be Blavat, sorry, but one of the two. He was an old-time disc jockey, gosh, going back 40 or 50 years now. So he does these nostalgic music cruises. And he's put this one together. It's the Disco, Rock, and Soul Show, featuring our other friend, Gary U.S. Bonds. And that is not on a cruise. That's at the Philadelphia Kimmel Center, happening tonight. Oh, and tomorrow in Babylon, I want to go see this. I really do. Robert Klein is at the Argyle Theater in Babylon. I may go to that. That's in Babylon, Long Island, the Argyle Theater, the great comedian Robert Klein. And then we've got on Sunday, Ed Asner and Tova Feldshuh. They've been doing this sad little play called The Soap Myth, all about the Holocaust. And they've been doing readings of it, even though they must have it memorized by now. Ed Asner and Tova Feldshuh, both friends of the Daverhood, and they're doing it at the allarts.org channel. So you can actually watch the show on your computers rather than just, seeing it in person in places. Then we've got also tomorrow, I was just talking about Sheldon Harnick, and then I saw him at Forbidden Broadway. He's going to give the Sheldon Harnick Award to Maury Yeston at a gala for Ensemble Opera Theater that is taking place at the National Arts Club. That is tomorrow. For more information, go to encompasstheater.org, and that's theater with an R-E. Let's see, on Monday, the late friend of ours, Betty Corwin, is going to be honored by the League of Professional Theater Women. That is at the Actors Temple. Robert Cuccioli on Monday will be in a reading of the play Women Beware Women at the Lucille Lortel Theater. That is for the Red Bull Theater Company. Just have a couple more of these. Hang tight with me. Speaking of the York Theater, they will have a reading on Monday of the old musical Celebration by Harvey Schmidt and our friend of the neighborhood, Tom Jones. And then on January 30th and the 31st, so towards later in the week, Alice Ripley is doing the show that she's been doing for the past couple of months called The Pink Unicorn, a solo show about a woman whose daughter is transgender and she's trying to deal with that. That is being done at the Holmdel Theater Company in Holmdel, New Jersey. And I think that will take us through, doesn't it? Let's see. Hold on, it's 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Yeah, that takes us through that. Want to remind you that Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake co-host Two on the Aisle, the theater review show on Manhattan Cable TV. That's where Eva Heinemann does her theater review show. MNN.org is the place to find out more. Evan Seplow is the editor of StageBuddy.com. Dr. Demento still doing new and old Dr. Demento shows. And check out SoundsOfBroadway.com, a website devoted to, it's basically an all musical theater all the time jukebox that Stuart Brown hosts and chooses and puts together. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing Dave's Gone By. It's about 10 minutes to noon in the Daverhood on this Saturday, January 25th. I want to just get our music running here for our next segment, basically our penultimate segment on this Dave's Gone By. But oh boy, are we excited or not? Because we will have story time. I know the children have been waiting patiently. Not so patiently. I did some bad things to some things you own. Well, that's not very nice, Potato. But yeah, we will have our story time. Plus, we have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up very, very shortly on Dave's Gone By for this Saturday, our 730th episode of the show that we've been calling Route 56 for my recent 56th birthday. Want to remind you before we get to story time that, of course, davesgoneby.com is the archive, the official archive of all things in the Daverhood, where you can watch or stream or download. Our last 2 years have been visual to an extent, and then all the previous years we have the audio files there as well. davesgoneby.com. Okay, let's do our story time. I'll explain rather quickly that this was a segment started a few years ago when I picked up a book at a gas station that it was written in the late 1960s, all about like pre-war Germany, and this kid who comes from a very poor family where they couldn't even afford to get a new cow. The whole book, which we read week after week after week, was about little Hans trying to get a cow for his family. And since then, we've read everything from driver's ed manuals to Bill Cosby children's books to Jewish holiday books. I mean, it's been all over the map. But I found this kind of cute. I don't know if there's anything to make fun of in here. Well, obviously there is. It's the fancy octopus that will take us through story time on Dave's Gone By.
Tell me a story, tell me a story, tell me a story. Remember what you said. You promised me, you said you would. You got to give in, so I'll be good. Tell me a story, then I'll go to bed.
Just telling you a story here on Dave's Gone By. It's not one. That's one of the reasons I also like this particular segment, because I don't have to do any work. Some other writer has written the text. All I got to do is read it and kind of make jokes about it if I can. This is the Fancy Octopus for Stone Arch readers, level 3. So it's not the easiest book in the world. Carl Meister is the author. The illustrator is Steve Harpster. And of course, there's a really cool illustration of a blinged out octopus and starfish. Not even sure what's going on there. Kind of reminding me of Lady Gaga and Beyonce. I'm not sure why. Well, honestly, I'm not sure why. Let's read this, shall we? We shall. Oh, there's a message first to parents and caregivers. Stone Arch reader books are designed to provide enjoyable reading experiences as well as opportunities to develop vocabulary, literary skills, and comprehension. Here are a few ways to support your beginning reader. Talk with your child about the ideas addressed in this story. Okay? The child is going to say, gee, can't you find me a better story? Discuss each illustration, mentioning the characters, where they are, and what they're doing, because your child isn't bright enough to figure it out for themselves. Read with expression, pointing to each word. You may want to read the whole story through and then revisit parts of the story to ensure that the meanings of words or phrases are understood. And talk about what the characters did, why they did what they did, and what would your child do in that situation. So basically, they're supposed to go straight from the Fancy Octopus to William Styron's Sophie's Choice. Help your child connect with characters and events in the story. And remember, reading with your child should be fun, not forced. Each moment spent reading with your child is a priceless investment in his or her literacy life. That is by Gail Saunders Smith. Oh, and she needed a PhD to tell us that. Well, thank you, Gail Saunders Smith. Thank you so much. Now, this is Stone Arch readers are produced by Stone Arch Books, which is, by the way, a capstone imprint. I don't know if you knew that. They're from where is it? Mankato, Minnesota. Ooh, Mankato, Minnesota, from capstonepub.com. And this is copyright 2012. As you can see, here's the Fancy Octopus again. Plus, getting something to talk about. There's a little fish drinking a soft drink. There's something to talk to your children about, as well as a seahorse with kind of an erect nose. All sorts of stuff going on here, sub rosa and under. Let's talk about Margot, the octopus. Margot, the octopus. Let's find out about her. Fun facts. An octopus can squeeze its body through a hole the size of its own eyeball. Wow. Okay. There's something filthy in there, but I'm not going to say it. The octopus can change the color, pattern, and feel of its skin to blend in and hide, and it can lay as many as 100,000 eggs at a time. So if you pass by a bathroom and you hear, it could be an octopus laying all those eggs. Each egg is about the size of a grain of rice. So they're small individually, but you put 100,000 of those together, and you're going to need some Vaseline down there. A newborn octopus's length is equal to the width of 2 quarters stacked on top of each other. Oh, just 1/8 of an inch. That's a great image. 2 quarters stacked on top of each other. That is the actual length of a newborn octopus. Wow. Okay. See, I love octopus stories. I'm a sucker for a good octopus story. Okay, sorry. Margot and Claire live deep in the sea, and they did everything together, including, well, of course, they went to the movies. Yeah, okay, sure. Let's keep it real, folks. And again, what is it? Is this a promotion for some kind of soft drink? This is the second time a fish has been drinking, some kind of soft beverage. They played games, and they had sleepovers. Okay. I'm not even going to go there. Maybe it was a college sleepover, and they were experimenting. Not even going to go. One day, Margot and Claire saw a poster from Shell magazine, a fashion show, be part of a special event. They needed models of all types. Ms. Dottie will train you at the Shell Walk on Saturday. Don't be late. It's at noon sharp. Let's go, said Claire. It sounds so fancy. I'm not sure, said Margot. See, Margot's all really, really put out by this. She's real upset. Probably has, the theme of the book is maybe personal self-loathing issues that we might have, or octopi might have. Claire's asking, well, why? What's the matter, Margot? Before Margot could answer, she squirted some black ink. When I feel nervous, she said, I squirt ink. Yeah, wow. It's always nice to come across a squirter. There she is. Claire felt bad for her friend, but she wanted to be in the fashion show. Please try, said Claire. I know you'd be great. Okay, said Margot, I'll try. It does sound like fun. You can tell Margot is probably Jewish, just from her attitude and her reactions and her endless worry about things. This is absolutely a Jewish woman. All right, here we go. On Saturday morning, the friends met at the Shell Walk. Fish rushed past them, carrying gowns. Everything's so fancy, said Margot. Look, said Claire, there's Miss Dottie. And notice they even have the lobster stage manager there. Our stage manager on this program used to be a lobster. He's not with us anymore. I had to let him go because I just saw him constantly clawing his way to the top. I'm sorry. Okay, moving forward in this fabulous book, The Fancy Octopus. Now, Miss Dottie was super fancy. Look at her. Oh, my God. She walked with style. She talked with style. She even laughed with style. She's got those laughter glasses that we all need. Miss Dottie made Margot nervous. What do you think happened when Margot got nervous? That's right. She squirted a little ink. Oh, man. Oh, geez. She's going to need a whole roll of Charmin for that. Oops, she said. I hope no one saw that. I did, said Claire, not the brightest friend, but I won't tell anyone. Here, use my scarf to catch all that ink that you just popped out of you. Thanks, said Margot. You are the best. So, gonna ruin a scarf to catch all the ink. Now, Miss Dottie is gathering the girls together. Look at that. Oh, they're so happy. Oh, they're so excited. Look at that. There's Kristen Chenoweth right there. There she is. The show is in 1 week, said Miss Dottie. Today, we will choose your gowns. Then we will practice. Miss Dottie pointed to a long walkway You will go to the end of the shell walk, she said, and when I ring the bell, swim towards me. Well, so much to do, huh? Let's see. The girls formed a line. A seahorse handed Claire a red gown and a crown, and he gave Margot a blue gown with a sash. Don't ruin anything, he said. I want everything back in perfect shape. See, he's a sort of cranky. He's probably Jewish too. Nobody else in this thing is, but he, with that guy, he's like, yeah, all right, please don't ruin it. Don't get crap and bubbles on the gowns I'm giving you. I gotta take them to the cleaners in the morning, and then they charge extra, and they have to hem things. Don't ruin. So, moving forward in the story, the girls went into the dressing room and got dressed. We look so fancy, said Claire. I don't feel very fancy, said Margot. No, I want you to decontextualize this drawing. I know we're telling a story here. I know I've been leading up to this. I know that you're following this, that you're following the story of Margot and Claire going to this fashion show. But imagine if you saw this picture divorced of any context at all. It's just how I do this here. I'm going to show this way. The love that could not speak its name. Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on there? Don't want to. Somebody's being pegged. That's all I've got to say. Oh my goodness. By the way, welcome to joining us just afternoon, Jim and Glenn and Blake and David and so many other people who have joined us for the program. Remember, folks, that if you missed the first 3 hours of this broadcast, is always going to be there at davesgoneby.com, and also you can scroll down right on this Facebook page. But we're doing story time with the fancy octopus. Anyway, Claire smiled at her friend. Try not to be nervous, said Claire. If you squirt ink, you might ruin the clothes. Well, saying that made Margot, guess what? Even more nervous. Miss Dottie rang the bell. Claire went first. She swam down the shell walk with her nose high in the air, and she looked beautiful, I have to say. You know, we've seen some beautiful women on the Beyonce goes down the walkway for the Grammy Awards, right? And then we've seen, famous fancy Anne Hathaway type actresses coming down the walkway, and I can't even remember any names at the moment, but no. Dottie's got it all, or Claire has it all over them. And see, look how happy they all are to see her, except these semi-retarded octopuses there. I don't know what's going on with them, but everybody else seems pretty happy to see her. What about her friend? We will see. Oh dear. Somehow, this beautiful, adorable, fancy octopus has now been transformed into a starving Ethiopian child. You just put some flies around her and like a bowl of gruel, and you could put this on a late-night TV commercial back in the 1970s. But there she is. There's poor Margot, the octopus, scared as heck, trying not to ink herself. Margot was next. She was so nervous she could hardly move. Her arms were stiff and straight. And then, oh God, Margot squirted. Oh, yeah. Because this is not she's not the only person that this happens to. Do really old people in nursing homes, do they squirt? Depends. Anywho, okay, so Margot squirted. Ms. Dottie looked surprised. Margot was sure that she would be asked to leave. Oh, I wonder if this is going to have a happy ending. Could it possibly? But look, Dottie started clapping. What a fancy octopus, she said. Me? Fancy? Asked Margot. But what about my squirting? Not even going to say it. It gives you an air of mystery, my dear, said Miss Dottie. But there is one thing, she said. You shouldn't be modeling a dress or any kind of location or any address. I shouldn't? Margot asked. Oh, no. said Miss Dottie. A girl with your arms belongs in jewelry. So she's already kind of doing the bling thing and the, what is it, America's Next Top Octopus model. And in the end, Margot truly was fancy. The end. See, look how beautiful she is. It almost looks like Ganesh or Kali there with all the stuff going on. Let's see. Is there anything more to? Oh, here's some story words in case we're having trouble catching everything we were reading here. Fancy, squirted, fashion, style, straight, modeling, and jewelry. Well, there you go. There you go. I thought this would be, actually, I really thought it might be a cautionary tale of, like, young octopus women who get into the modeling world, and then there's also, she's like getting kelp that is mixed in with heroin or something, and she meets the wrong types, and she goes to these special parties, and she meets these male squids who make her promises, and then she wakes up the next morning, she doesn't even know where she is, and 2 of her arms are missing. No, it wasn't that kind of story at all. It was just the fantasy octopus with a happy ending. And by the way, if you liked this story, they do have the brave pufferfish, the hiding eel, which is more of a sexual one, and of course, the shivery shark. That's right, I forgot to put my shark hat all the way on for the shivery shark, but we did do today's Storytime story, the fancy octopus, here on Dave's Gone By. Well, it is about 10 minutes after 12 in the afternoon. I've got to tell you about this, because we're going from tentacles to testicles here. I have to say this. So I'm sitting on this chair, and I'm wearing this suit, and it's an all the way down suit. I can't really, no ways I can maybe get on the chair and show you, but no, I'm not going to do it because my knee's a little troublesome this morning. But so this whole thing is one big old onesie, like a shark onesie, which is fabulous, except every time I sit down, it's kind of like I'm sitting on this pillow on a hard chair, and half the time I'm sitting right on my nuts, which is in honor, by the way, of the late Mr. Peanut. I don't know if you were here for the beginning of the program, but Mr. Peanut apparently dies in a horrible, a terrible accident. He's saving Wesley Snipes and another actor, and he sacrifices himself to save their lives. He falls onto the Nutmobile, which explodes under him, and there will be the death of 104-year-old Mr. Peanut will be visible, and there will be a funeral, in fact, on the Super Bowl. I'm not making this up. I read the CNN story. There's stories about it all over the interwebs. So in Mr. Peanut's honor, half the time when I sit down on here, I am sitting right on them, and I've got to like kind of shift and pick them up, which is hard to because I don't know where they are in this shark suit. But anywho, you've been watching the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? No. Oh, I wrote a joke. Now, I may have appropriated a joke I heard somewhere else and forgot, and then thought that I made this up, but I thought this was cute. How does a binary person express gratitude? I owe you one. Get it? I owe you one. O's and ones. Okay, anyway. We do have one little more piece of the puzzle that is Dave's Gone By on this Saturday, January 25th, 2020, here in the Daverhood. And this is kind of cool. For the past couple of years, I've been doing something called the Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And this is because my wife and I have lived or had lived in northern Colorado for about 9 years. And I got it into my head one day for absolutely no reason to write silly, funny, often dirty limericks devoted to all the different towns and places in Colorado. Well, I mean, it started just for a couple of them that came into my head. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have lots and lots of these? And so far I do. I have about 70 or 80 of them now. I still add a couple here and there when I think of them. So yeah, we have our Colorado Limerick of the Dam. So if you brought the kids over for our Octopus story, you might want to get them out of the room for our Colorado Limerick of the Dam, because limericks tend to be a bit on the rude side, a bit on the naughty side. That's what makes them fun. We are going on this particular morning, or early afternoon, to Baca, Colorado. It's not really a town, it's a county. Sort of like when Joyce and I used to live in Weld County, that comprised a couple of smaller towns and cities. This is a different county in Colorado called Baca, B-A-C-A. And so, for Baca, Colorado, this will be our Colorado Limerick of the Dam.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick. Rocky Mountain,
Now, of course, this being Baca, Colorado, it will give us something to chew on. And, you know, when you chew on Baca, or chew Baca, you become Wookiee of the Year. I'm sorry. That is not the limerick. That's just a stupid joke. No, let me tell you a little bit about Baca before we get to our tiny little poem. It is southeastern Colorado. In fact, it is the most southeastern county in all of Colorado, and it includes little towns like Campo, Pritchett, Two Butts, or really it's Two Buttes. That's the name of a place there, and Springfield, because Colorado, of course, has a Springfield, plus the unincorporated community of Utleyville. Even if the poem sucks, the idea that there's an unincorporated community called Utleyville in southeastern Colorado, in Baca, Colorado, just makes me so happy. In the 1930s, I mean, this town has seen some tough times. It had dust storms in kind of the Steinbeck years. And then in 1977, they went for a terrible tornado. I don't know if it kicked up more dust or what. It remains rural and agricultural, but there's about 4,000 people now living in Baca County, which is, by the way, back in the day, it was Comanche territory, and Apaches dwelled there as well. So Baca, Colorado, B-A-C-A, time for our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Let me get a noise. In case it flops, I always like to have a noise handy, like our ba-dum-bum. Baca, Colorado. Oh yeah, this is, I will warn you, get the kids away. This is bad. There is a young woman in Baca who shits and then eats her own caca. What she can't digest, she drools down her chest till excrement covers each naka. Yes, that, my friends, is our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. I'll do that one again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please send your comments and complaints to davesgoneby@aol.com. davesgoneby@aol.com. That's one of my best worst ever, I have to say. What else? You can also message me right here on our Facebook page, facebook.com/davesgoneby. But you know that because you're already here. The point is telling your other friends or people you want to discuss horribly about Dave's Gone By being live on Facebook every Saturday from 9 until noon or thereabouts. Tell them about our podcast that we put up on castbox.fm, or you can also watch and listen to our episodes from the past year or so at archive.org, archive.org. But of course, all our stuff from forever is at davesgoneby.com. But remember, you can, as I was saying here about replying to people's birthday greetings on Facebook, you can even scroll for the past 2 years, I think, of shows that we've done visually on Facebook. It takes a long time to start loading them. Once you get past a month or two, you just kind of like load and wait and load and wait and load and wait. Much easier just to go to davesgoneby.com. And I keep forgetting, we also load all our shows on YouTube as well. So yeah, lots of different ways to watch and listen to Dave's Gone By. That's the point. and share us with your friends, and go looking for all these wonderful people who've been on the show in years past that we spoke about in Friends of the Daverhood. As I mentioned, we have Steve Kaplan coming up in, I think it's on the 1st, but it might be the 8th of February. Well, check our Facebook page, check our regular page, and you can find out for yourself. And what else do I have to share with you? I think that'll about do it. Yeah, it's about 12:15 Eastern Time in the Daverhood. Hope you've enjoyed this show. Give it about 24 hours for it to show up on our davesgoneby.com page in case you want to go back and watch it from the beginning or share it with other people. It takes us a little time to render it and to post it on davesgoneby.com. It will be available immediately on Facebook, so that's kind of cool as well. I want to thank so much my darling and adorable and wonderful wife, Joyce, for joining me for the first part of the program and for joining me on my birthday and for her wonderful both aquatic and non-aquatic gifts. You might remember the panda costume from last week, and for just being so supportive and so great to me every day of the year for the past, oh my God, 22, 23 plus years. Love you, babe. Thanks to everybody for tuning in and watching and sharing the show. Thank you to my folks for the use of the hall. And what else? Oh, I think that's about it. Stay dry today, and tomorrow's going to be a lot better here out in the East. And just make it a good one. You know, I'm starting my 56th year on the planet, and half the time I'm a little depressed about it, and the other half of the time I'm kind of shrugging the shoulders and go, well, you know, I still got a lot of time, I hope. A lot more shows to do, a lot more things to write, a lot more creative stuff and fun to have. And I wish the same for you and gone by.
Days gone by, there goes the day. Days gone by, there goes the day. Days gone by, there goes the day.
Kind of wondering if that was Freudian. If I just said, like, I wish the shame for you. Well, better you than me, quite honestly. But no, make it a great week. Enjoy the end of January. We're more than a month now past the longest days of the year. It gets better, ladies and gentlemen. And gone by.